with the president for the BRICS summit, but he would consider it if he had been invited. So it's all now brought the divisions around policy, legislation, and perhaps even the governing agenda, the program of action, because it's really not been spelled out in full by the Government of National Unity more than 100 days since it was formed. They did undertake that they would, but at this stage, what policies are being implemented? Who drives foreign policy? And what is the basis thereof? Because the DA is adamant that the statement of intent signed by all the parties actually says there should be, quote unquote, sufficient consensus. And the president did not have that sufficient consensus to go and make that declaration that Russia is a valuable friend and ally of South Africa. So it's all turned into a war of words. We'll focus on that at about 7:10. In fact, we'll spend a few minutes after 7 in the second hour focusing on the fallout from those 7 words that the president said in Kazan in Russia. In this hour, though, 24 learners, as you heard in the news there, from a school in Matsulu in Mpumalanga were rushed to hospital yesterday in yet another case of suspected food poisoning. The Provincial Education Department says the pupils at Enzani Primary School complained about abdominal pains, among other symptoms. This is the second incident in the province in Mpumalanga, but importantly, it's the latest in a spate of incidents of this nature that have at times turned fatal. A lot of the pupils needing to be treated in hospital, but also some of them losing their lives due to these recent incidents. We'll be reporting on the incident in Mpumalanga at about 20 to 7 within this hour. But also, we'll tell you this story. You will have heard the interview we had yesterday with Wayne Duvenage of Outer, and just how it left me reeling about the concern about the state of bridges and culverts on the roads across Johannesburg. Well, there are calls for the Johannesburg Roads Agency to immediately repair bridges that it says are either in a poor or very poor condition. You'll remember that we told you yesterday that the JRA is admitting that out of 902 bridges across the city, 702 of them are either in poor or very poor condition. And that's a scale that they use. It's a technical scale of assessing the usability of each and every bridge. Well, the agency has confirmed that many of the city's bridges are are in imminent danger of structural failure, with less than 10% of their useful life remaining. That's the category that is categorized as very poor. Well, the agency heard the interview we had with Wayne Duvenage yesterday, and its CEO, Zwelinyati, is due to speak to me at about 10 to 7, and that's coming up in this hour, so look out for that conversation. Of course, we have all of your regulars lined up for you, locked and loaded, and Musa standing by to give you updates in the news. Every half hour, we'll have Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan will be watching your sport throughout the morning. Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business, and market news covered. Sipho Mantula will come through with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And of course, through it all, we'll be taking your calls and with you leading the conversation that moves us. And for you to do that, you can call me on 086 000 2032. But I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on the number 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The first hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Did you know October marks the 19th anniversary of Transport Month, a vital initiative by the National and Provincial Departments of Transport. This year's campaign highlights the progress being made to build better infrastructure, create jobs, and boost an inclusive, sustainable economy, all while enhancing service delivery.
Doing more together, building better infrastructure, and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Hey, good morning, Anne.
Good morning.
It would seem it's become a staple on our daily diary. The stories about pupils at schools consuming some snacks and then falling sick. And I heard that that's one of the stories that's leading on your bulletin this morning.
Definitely. So the increase in food poisoning incidents leading to calls for safety and quality controls to be implemented. And the Gauteng Agriculture and Rural Development MEC saying that the recent foodborne illnesses and the deaths of children in Gauteng especially has reached crisis level, with about more than 200 cases were reported between February and September in Gauteng alone. And yesterday, the Gauteng Provincial Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Tommy Mtombeni, and the SAPS Gauteng management held a briefing at the Eldorado Park station, and confirmation from the police that the spaza shop in Aledi, Soweto was sprayed with insect poison, which is actually what caused the cross-contamination, resulting in the deaths of the 6 children. So it's worrying. It's worrying.
Yeah.
Also looking at what happened yesterday in Mpumalanga, it really is worrying. So, the education authorities there also just, pleading with parents and school governing bodies to monitor what learners are also eating, be it at school or outside of, the school premises.
Sure. What else is on your diary?
Well, the man who allegedly raped and murdered a 6-year-old girl in Orlando in Soweto is expected to appear in the Protea Magistrates Court today, and he was arrested on Wednesday night facing charges of rape and murder. The ANC NEC will be holding a number of meetings this weekend, and this is to reflect on the developments within the party as well as the Government of National Unity. So we're previewing the ANC NEC's 4-day meetings from this afternoon, taking place in Boksburg. Top of the agenda is the ANC's electoral decline at the 29 May polls, where the party lost its majority for the first time since 1994. Also looking at the official opposition MK party, expected to unveil its leadership structures of the provinces, and this happens after the adoption of the party's constitution a few weeks ago. In Limpopo, the DA welcoming the forensic report into alleged corruption, irregular expenditure and maladministration at the Polokwane municipality, and the report there revealing that supply chain processes were not followed and some municipal employees colluded to actually claim overtime pay while they were on leave. And just lastly, the LGBTQA plus community will be holding a march of hate crime and to raise awareness about the community, and the march is part of Orange Day, which calls for the mobilization to end GBV, and the community saying that members have been a target of murders committed, especially in Nelson Mandela Bay. So some of the stories that we are focusing on.
Yeah, from that list, let me pick out the story around the MK revealing its provincial leadership. It will be interesting to watch because, the MK clearly needs to build from the momentum from the elections in May and build structures and try and inculcate a culture of internal democracy without causing divisions from the contestation that results from there. So it will be interesting to see because clearly they've been lining up leadership at a national level. They have been. So
it will be interesting to see.
Lastly and very quickly, did you get your answer yesterday? Can I get a loan from you? Will you charge me interest? Because if you do, you might run into problems.
I got my answer. Okay. So, no.
I'm not coming for a loan.
Definitely not.
All right. N Musa. That's N there. N will be watching the news and will be updating you every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
I tell you what, the weather is starting to really look good. In terms of the warnings this morning, there's only one warning, and it's a fire danger warning. It says that extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the Northern Cape, the western regions of both the Free State and the Northwest provinces. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria is partly cloudy with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 32. Johannesburg partly cloudy, 16 to 30. Mbombela is partly cloudy with early morning fog patches with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 29. Polokwane is partly cloudy with early morning fog patches, 18 to 27. Mahikeng is fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 34. Bloemfontein is fine, 11 to 32. Kimberley, fine, 14 to 35. Cape Town will be partly cloudy. The wind will be moderate to fresh south to southeasterly, with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 21. Gqeberha is partly cloudy. The wind will be moderate to fresh southwesterly with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 20. East London will be cloudy at first, otherwise partly cloudy. The wind will be moderate to fresh southwesterly with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 21. Durban will be partly cloudy, becoming cloudy in the afternoon with isolated showers and rain. The wind will be light northwesterly at first, otherwise moderate to fresh northeasterly with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 23. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be partly cloudy, becoming cloudy in the afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 24.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
21 minutes after 6. Well, there's a heart-wrenching video that was published by the Guardian newspaper online that perhaps sums up and is emblematic of the desperate humanitarian situation in Gaza a year into Israel's war on the territory. Filmed outside a bakery in Deir al-Balah, it shows hordes of men and women with anguish and desperation etched on their faces, stretching out their arms and calling out in a cacophony of noise, desperate for some bread. It is now widely accepted in the international community that civilians in Gaza face a humanitarian crisis amid Israel's intensifying military assault, especially in the north of the enclave, with UN officials describing the situation as being on the edge of humanitarian collapse. For more on the humanitarian situation in Gaza, I'm joined by Zinat Adam, who is the Executive Director of the Afro-Middle East Center. Zinat, good morning. Thank you for your time. From your understanding and gathering of information and monitoring that situation in Gaza, how would you describe the humanitarian crisis there?
I think that it's beyond the edge of a humanitarian collapse as described by the United Nations. It's really been over a year of this kind of ethnic cleansing and genocide, but that has been coupled with a deliberate starvation of the population. And in addition to that, what we're looking at is a humanitarian crisis that is man-made and perpetuated by a devastating war in which 85,000 tons of explosives have been utilized on the people of Gaza. I don't think that any of us, Thulasizwe, can remove from our minds the kind of images that we're seeing published, and this is worldwide, even across the social media. Last week, we saw Shaban Dalon burning alive while attached to an IV drip. This morning, I woke up to images coming out of Jabalia refugee camp where mothers have been separated from their children while the children are put into a ditch and they've been forcibly terrorized by the Israeli Defense Force. After that, the children have been flung into the crowd, not knowing who their mothers are, and any woman is taking any child trying to protect them. We're looking at hordes of people being put onto trucks and being moved on into concentration camps. We've witnessed trucks being brought back into Gaza and being left into places, including an ice cream truck last year and including a different truck a few weeks ago with pieces of bodies that are unidentifiable. So when we talk about the devastating impact, and we hear the number of atrocities, and we hear the number of casualties being pegged at 42,000, I want to remind our listeners that 42,000 is the very minimal number of casualties, and that the Lancet actually pegs it closer to 180,000. But because of the shredded bodies, it's difficult to identify them.
Zinat, if we just focus on the humanitarian situation faced by civilians for a moment, it is quite telling, is it not, that even the United States, the key ally of Israel, has basically given Israel a kind of an ultimatum to say the flow of aid needs to improve into Gaza to assist civilians, or else there will be consequences within 30 days.
Well, we've heard those things about consequences, and we haven't seen those. We've heard the red lines being drawn, and we haven't seen any consequences being utilized against the Israelis when they have completely ignored these ultimatums. This week, we've heard the barring by the Israelis of medical NGOs from entering into Gaza to assist, and this is coming out of the World Health Organization. So it really begs the question as to when and how things can move in a direction whereby people are actually given the kind of humanitarian assistance that they need. And there isn't the scholasticide that's taking place. There isn't the femicide that's taking place. There isn't the killing of children on a daily basis. There isn't the killing of children before they are born. And when we look at that list of the 42,000 people, we're looking at a number of infants. How do we rectify and conciliate this amongst ourselves? In the next 2 weeks, we're saying that there's going to be an ultimatum in 30 days. In the next 2 weeks, you're looking at the U.S. elections coming up, and that may have some kind of a change. But both of the leading candidates for that are trying to appease the Israelis. And this, to me, speaks of state capture of Israel, of the United States by Israel and by AIPAC, and by the lobby that they have within Washington.
There seems to have been a disruption of the flow and a further restriction on the flow of humanitarian aid that was brought about by the Israeli offensives, particularly in the area around Rafah, which was around May. How important was that? Because there are various routes that the UN has been using to try and get aid into Gaza, but that Rafah crossing was quite crucial with links to Jordan. How disruptive do you believe that particular aspect was in terms of getting aid into Gaza?
So a correction that the Rafah crossing is bordering on Egypt, not on Jordan.
Sure.
And that the situation around May was also related to the negotiations that were taking place. Now, we must remember that there was really a dripping of aid that was coming through the Rafah crossing in any case. But what had taken place in May was that Joe Biden had put a deal on the table, and Israel had then turned around and said that the only way that they would agree to this is if they can have control over the Rafah crossing and create a buffer zone within that region. And that put the negotiations to a stalemate. Since then, there's been even less of humanitarian aid entering through the Rafah crossing. There was supposed to be humanitarian aid coming through from the Israeli bordering side, and that was also stopped even by civilians on the Israeli side, determined to prevent any humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. We also have to recall that a few months ago, humanitarian aid entered into Gaza, and immediately when people went out to reach for that aid, they were attacked by bombings, and this was known as the Flower Massacre. So it hasn't been an easy situation at all for Palestinians nor for humanitarian aid workers. We've also witnessed that number of humanitarian aid workers and humanitarian aid convoys, when they've given their coordinates to the Israelis to guarantee their safety, have actually been attacked as a result.
How much, Zinat, as I'm looking at the Kazan declaration from the BRICS leaders that has just come out, it touches on a number of aspects of international concern, and among them, of course, the Middle East. And it basically says, quote, "We reiterate our grave concern at the deterioration of the situation and humanitarian crisis in the occupied Palestinian territory." To what extent do the words of leaders beyond the leaders such as the United States that support and side with Israel in terms of its right to defend itself, the words of leadership such as those represented by BRICS, to what extent will that move the conversation on humanitarian aid?
I think that is more indicative of the split within the international community and the kind of pressures that are arising. I think that it is a blow to multilateralism. I think that what we've seen over the last year has been the blatant disregard for international law, and that includes international humanitarian law on the part of Israel. So when the BRICS nations are coming together, making a statement like this, emphasizing the need for a change and the need for a return to multilateralism, it is particularly significant. But until and unless countries like the USA and the UK and Germany stop their support of Israel through the flow of arms and with the Americans with the inclusion of troops on the ground, this situation will not really be resolved. We do know that there has been a scurry of diplomatic activity from the Americans this week. Yesterday, an announcement was made that by Blinken and the Qatari Prime Minister that they would be resuming the negotiations. But this has been particularly said that it will be with no reconstitution of Hamas, and for the Palestinians to rebuild their lives. And the other important thing that's coming up before the end of this month is that South Africa will be presenting their memorial to the ICJ in terms of the case. All right,
Zinat, I've got to thank you for your time. Let's leave it there for this morning. That's Zinat Adam, who is the Executive Director of the Afro-Middle East Center. Bringing us to 6:31. Let's check in with Ann Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the man who allegedly raped and murdered a 6-year-old girl in Orlando, Soweto, is expected to appear in the Protea Magistrates Court this morning. The suspect was arrested on Wednesday night after a warrant of arrest was issued. The Mpumalanga Education Department has called on both parents and school governing bodies to monitor what learners eat at school and outside. This after 24 pupils from the Enzani Primary School in Matsulu were yesterday rushed to hospital after they complained of abdominal pains and vomiting. And the South African Poultry Association plans to submit its application for VAT-free chicken products to Parliament in the coming month. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The traffic south of Joburg this morning. There's been a collision on the N12 Potchefstroom Highway. It's just before the Golden Highway exit at Eldorado Park, and that's pushing traffic back through Klipspruit Valley and back towards sort of the Lenasia, the first of the Lenasia exits as you come up from Protea Glen. So if you don't fancy that, an off-ramp and a reroute through Soweto would work nicely. Further up the N1 North through Deepcliff Interchange, despite a low volume Friday morning, that is busy as it has been across this week. It's a problem getting through that Deepcliff Interchange and down to Uncle Charlie's. Durban, looks like the traffic lights are still down. Phoenix Highway at Trade Centre. It was very busy there yesterday, and it's pretty heavily backed up getting out of the top end of Phoenix this morning as well. And Cape Town, bit of pressure built up on the N1 from Plattercliff to Sable Road. The N2 from the airport through to Mowbray Main Road's already busy. Mitchell's Plain coming out towards Samora Michelle, busy as usual. And today actually marks 2 weeks since the bridge was struck at by that truck at Lower Church Street on the N1 outbound. And 2 weeks later, that N1 outbound off-ramp to Lower Church remains closed for traffic coming out of the city centre wanting to turn into Woodstock. You can't do that. If you miss it, you have to go and sort of jig and poke around the Marine Drive and Kuburg interchange exit. So if you need to get into Woodstock from the city centre, go out through the CBD, look for Newmarket and Albert Road instead. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. The nominations for the 2024 CAF Awards are up, and it's all about Captain Fantastic, Bafana Bafana Captain.
I mean, they might as well just rename it the Runwin Show because he's up for, I think, three. Some exciting things that he's been: the African Player of the Year, Goalkeeper of the Year, Interclub Player of the Year. Man, he's not just stopping shots, he's stopping the awards show, clearly. And he's on a plane this Sunday for the Yashin Award at the Ballon d'Or, which will be announced on Monday. So we're holding thumbs for our Bafana captain, Ronwen Williams. And I think he's definitely been a standout in both the national and international stage. And there was also Sundowns, who received a nomination for Club of the Year after securing the African Football League title. And this is all the nominations for the 2024 CAF Awards that features Williams and his team, Mamelodi Sundowns, for now. Other action, AS Roma, they had a 1-0 home victory over Dynamo Kiev in an uneventful Europa League match yesterday. And then we saw other results. Ajax Amsterdam easing to a 3-0 win over Karabakh, who had 2 players sent off to move provisionally to the top of the standings. Real Sociedad beat Maccabi Tel Aviv 2-1 in Belgrade, and Eintracht Frankfurt overcame a surprisingly tricky challenge to secure a 1-0 home victory against Latvia's FK RFS. Elsewhere, Roberto Mancini has been axed as coach of the Saudi Arabia national team after 14 months on the job following a result of poor results. Mancini, who led his native Italy to Euro 2020 victory during a trophy-laden career, managed 7 wins, 6 defeats and 5 draws with the Green Falcons. In the meantime, 4 people have been arrested in Spain over allegedly conducting an online campaign of hate and racism against Real Madrid forward Vinicius Jr. The Brazil forward broke down in a press conference earlier this year when talking about the racial abuse he encountered, saying he felt less and less likely to play football following multiple incidents. The men were detained on the 14th and 15th of October and then released as the investigations continue. Cricket, the stand-in captain Aiden Markram has hailed South Africa's first test win in the subcontinent in a decade as a special moment for the team as the players basked in the glory following their 7-wicket triumph against the hosts in Bangladesh. South Africa ended a decade-long drought in the Indian subcontinent with that commanding 7-wicket win. The triumph marks South Africa's first test win in the region since 2014.
Slightly inexperienced group to come to the subcontinent and get a win is great for us and the environment. So creates a nice buzz in the change room and gives us a bit of belief that we can compete in conditions that are where the odds are or maybe seem to be stacked against us. So it does a lot for us and yeah, it gives us a taste of what playing cricket in the sub is like.
And finally, rugby, the Springbok captain Siya Kolisi has been selected to play at number 8 for the Sharks in their United Rugby Championship match against Munster this Saturday. This comes just days after Kolisi and his wife Rachel announced their divorce despite personal challenges. Sharks coach John Plumtree says Kolisi is both mentally and physically ready for the game and expects his new position to give him more freedom on the field. The Sharks are counting on Kolisi's leadership as they take on a very strong Munster side at Kings Park. That's how we wrap up sport on the morning brief. We'll have more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. Good morning to you, Ndauling. So you're telling us about African financial markets expanding at the fastest pace in 7 years. What's behind that?
Morning, Thulas, and that's right. Africa's financial markets, including stock exchanges, bond markets, and currency markets, are experiencing rapid growth, expanding at their fastest pace since 2017. Now, this growth is largely driven by the continent's recovery from economic challenges, as well as slowing inflation. According to ABSA's latest Africa Financial Markets Index, 23 out of 29 countries improved their scores as the value of pension fund assets grew and foreign exchange reserves improved. We also have international institutions turning positive on the continent, boosting sentiment. Yesterday, we spoke about the IMF revising its SA growth forecast to the upside. A similar move done for sub-Saharan Africa. The IMF expects the region to grow 3.6% this year and advance 4.2% next year. Now, ABSA says the upward trend is a welcome after years of economic uncertainty. Now, the index also revealed notable improvements in specific countries. Egypt, Ethiopia, and Nigeria saw increased transparency in currency markets after adopting freely floating regimes. The top 5 performers in the index remained South Africa, Mauritius, Nigeria, Uganda, and Namibia. Botswana jumped 1 spot to 6th place, while Ghana dropped to 7th. Overall, Africa's financial markets are poised for continued growth, driven by recovering economies, improved market conditions, and increased access to global capital. Now, ABSA further said this growth is expected to have a positive impact on the continent's economic development as well as the investment landscape.
Tell me about data tech eyeing AI gains. What's that all about?
Now, a local company poised to benefit from the AI boom is DataTech. The tech company says the AI boom will likely drive demand for new networking and personal computing systems further. And so in its outlook, it says sectors like cybersecurity and cloud infrastructure will boost its growth moving forward. Those are the industries it operates in. Now, while the outlook was upbeat, its interim results were mixed. Revenue declined 5.5% due to a shift in sales mix from networking to software. Despite that, profits increased, with earnings jumping 71.4%, driven by strong performances from its divisions Westcon International and Logicalis International on the back of upbeat demand for their services. Now, company CEO Jens Montanana says the group aims to improve shareholder returns through corporate and business development actions. Recently, the company acquired UK-based Rabura to enhance its cloud-based solutions and is also exploring strategic options, including separate listings of some of its units. DataTech's operations span North America, Latin America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Asia Pacific, with core businesses in IT infrastructure, cloud services, cybersecurity, and network infrastructure. The company generates most of its revenue from Europe, accounting for 50%. So a lot of its acquisitions or the options they're exploring in terms of acquisitions will be situated within Europe.
Finally, Ndauling, give us a recap of the markets here at home in the US and in Asia.
So the global sell-off that took hold of markets this week has paused, with stocks staging somewhat of a recovery. U.S. equities closing mostly in the green in yesterday's trading session, with the S&P 500 posting its first positive day in a week, up 0.2%. Local markets also recovering following a few days of choppy trade as investors held off on equities. The all share closed just over 0.5% in the green, with most of the gains coming from the financial 15, up 1%. On the currency front, the dollar recording some losses as U.S. Treasury yields slipped, that not filtering through to the rand, though, as it's still on the back foot, trading at 17.70 to the greenback. And then over in Asia, traders digesting Japanese inflation numbers ahead of that BOJ meeting taking place next week. Markets trading mixed following the release of that print.
That's Ndauling Lichelas. She's up and about and is ready to give you your updates this morning on the economy, business, as well as an update of the markets here at home and around the world throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Bayede."
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Get ready for the biggest night in South African music. Tune in to SABC 1 on the 2nd of November at 8 p.m. for the 30th South African Music Awards, celebrating our finest local talent. Catch the yellow carpet action from 6 p.m. and join us as we honor the legends and voices that shape our sound. For more info, visit samusicawards.co.za. Hashtag Less Noise, More Music. Hashtag Summer 30 in partnership with the SABC.
Powerball is bringing the excitement with an estimated 20 million rand jackpot. But that's not all. Powerball Plus is turning up the thrill with a guaranteed 65 million rand jackpot this Friday. Play Powerball and Powerball Plus today for your chance at big millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let's take a quick call from Patrick in Pietermaritzburg. Good morning to you, Patrick. You want to talk to me about Russia and BRICS?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Kunjani mfowethu?
Ngiyaphila kunjani mfowethu?
Yaphila mfowethu. Thulasizwe, I'm a bit confused, my brother, because Ramaphosa has gone to Russia to the BRICS summit, correct?
Sorry, Patrick, say that again.
Ramaphosa has gone to Russia to the BRICS summit.
Yes.
Okay, so here's my concern. You know that Putin has invaded Ukraine, and I'm thinking to myself, but how's that possible? How many people have been killed in Ukraine, Thulasizwe? And this man was supposed to be taken to the International Court of Justice. Yet our government, represented by Ramaphosa, can go and sit with this man, and we just have to sit here in South Africa and accept this, because it doesn't make sense. These people, the Russians, have killed millions, not millions, but thousands of people in Ukraine. And yet we can sit down with the same man on the same table, Thulasizwe.
I suppose, Patrick, international relations is like that. It's nuanced. It's difficult. There are no black and whites. There are gray areas. Sometimes you keep a relationship even if you're uncomfortable because you believe you can have influence. But sometimes you terminate a relationship where you realize that actually there's nothing to be gained from having that relationship. It's really difficult. That's why even with South Africa's criticism of Israel, that relationship has not been severed.
Yes, and of course you must remember that Israel was attacked by a terrorist organization and had to defend itself. It's not like Russia was attacked by Ukraine, Thulasizwe.
Yeah. And just lastly, Patrick, before I let you go, let me just highlight for you what the BRICS summit has said on Ukraine, that particular conflict. Their declaration from Kazan, it reads, on Ukraine, we emphasize that all states should act consistently with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter in their entirety and interrelation. We note with appreciation relevant proposals of mediation and good offices aimed at a peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. And I guess, Patrick, as I let you go, I suppose that's what the leaders who are participating at the summit believe can be achieved, that you have that opportunity to influence how that conflict can be resolved.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's take a quick voice note. Let me just take one that has to do with the DA's position on Russia and what the president said about Russia being a friend and ally of South Africa.
Morning, Thulas. It's Vugani from Durban. I see that the DA doesn't see eye to eye with the president on the issue of Russia. Now, the known form of protest is to you leave when you are not happy with something. Why doesn't the DA leave the GNU as a form of protest? Why criticize but stay? So if they are not happy, they must just leave and not continue being crybabies. The president is the president of the country, not of a particular section of the country. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, it's difficult, that one, Vugani, because, it's quite clear that they are not at a point of walking away yet, but they are, navigating their differences. These differences, by the way, were always going to arise. You're talking about parties that come from so many disparate traditions and philosophies and ideologies, and they're now trying to meld it together into a cohesive policy and way of governing. So I don't think we'll see the DA walking away at all. They've made it clear that they consider the risk of an ANC, EFF, MK party coalition far much greater, and they would rather stay in and fight it out inside the government of national unity.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A couple of hassles around El Dorado Park this morning. The N12, this is the Potchefstroom Highway coming inbound from Lenasia and Protea Glen. There is a problem there with the crash scene just before you get to the Golden Highway exit. So quite a heavy backlog as you route in from the Lenasia side this morning. Throughout Protea Glen, you might want to think about routing through Soweto on local routes to avoid that N12 heaviness. Also off the highway, and I can't see how it's related, but the Golden Highway from the N12, Eldo's up to Devlin, is exceptionally heavy this morning. The N1 South getting busy now between Old Joburg Road and Olifantsfontein Road, and some lights out around Pretoria East between Silver Lakes and Atterbury Road on Solomon Mishlangu. So that's quite slow. The queue start around Solomon Mishlangu at the N4, and they go right through Linwood Road right down to about Disselboom Avenue. Durban, the N2 already backed up from the M7 Bluff exit through Spaghetti Junction into the roadwork zone. Cape Town, a crash on Viking Way at the N7. That's quite heavy. Backlogs, particularly in from Elsie's through to Epping. There's also been a crash on the N2 inbound in the bus lane. That's the bus and taxi lane at Bunga Avenue in front of so coming in from the airport, that's quite slow. And the N1 this morning backed up already from Plattercliff Road through towards the Sable Road off-ramp. Also Mitchell's Plain, still very busy. A lot of roadworks going on. AZ Berman and the M7 at the same time. There's big construction jobs on those two big routes out of Mitchell's Plain. So they're busy. Routes like Highlands Drive, Velta Freden Road, 300. A lot of pressure in the Mitchell's Plain area. Unusual for this time on a Friday. Very busy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Strictly Twahla registered 4 draws in their opening 4 matches of the season. Now they strictly won 3 points. But Babinanuko wants a permanent home in the top 5. KZN takes on Limpopo. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Royal AM versus Sikukune United this Saturday, 26 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Eskom has made it easy for you to recode your meter. Customers must recode meters by 24 November 2024. All Eskom customers are reminded to recode their prepaid meters before 24 November 2024. If your meter is not recoded, it will not accept legally bought prepaid electricity tokens. Eskom has made this process easy for you. We have pre-coded all meters and they are ready for you to recode your meter yourself. To do this, go to any Eskom-approved electricity outlet and buy an electricity credit token. Our teams are on standby to help you.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
All right, this issue continues to be of grave concern. 24 learners from a school in Matsulu in Mpumalanga were rushed to hospital yesterday in a case of suspected food poisoning. The Provincial Education Department says the pupils at Enzani Primary School complained about abdominal pains, among other symptoms. I'm joined by Gerald Sambo, who is the Mpumalanga Education Department spokesperson. Good morning to you, Mr. Sambo. I've got to thank you for your time. So just give me a bit more detail of this incident. Is it linked to food that was purchased either from a spaza shop or informal trading?
Good morning to you, Thulasizwe, and good morning to all the listeners of SAFM, and thank you very much for this opportunity. What we can indicate currently as a department is that the indication that we're getting from the school is that when these learners started complaining about these pains and some of them started vomiting, they had indicated that they purchased some snacks called cheaper from one of the local spaza shops. But what we can currently indicate is that we will rely on the report that we'll get from the hospital that will indicate clearly what caused the sickness, on the side of the learners. But what we can also indicate is that all the learners were released yesterday to the care of their parents. And the MEC will visit the school tomorrow at 11 o'clock just to talk to the parents, but to also talk to the school management teams and as well as the school community to urge them to remain vigilant, to monitor what these children consume, be it in the school, outside the school, premises. And that will actually assist a great deal, in ensuring that we curb such incidences, from happening. It is concerning, as you are correctly putting it, because this is one of the incidents that we have actually experienced as a province. Because remember, there is a school called Maraki Secondary School where about 21 learners were also rushed to the hospital after they have consumed an archer that they procured from one of the local street vendors, and they started, showing the similar kind of sickness. And the MEC, when she was presenting the state of readiness for the writing of the 2024 Grade 12 National Senior Certificate Examinations, she actually highlighted this as an area of concern because this has got also a potential of destabilizing the writing of the examination should we have such, from occurring in the future, and we don't want to see it in our community. So officials from inclusive education will also render psychosocial support, to the affected learners, but also some of the learners who may be experiencing some challenges psychologically because of this kind of incident. And we really need to have that multi-sectoral kind of an approach to actually try and see how we can curb such.
Beyond these two incidents, beyond the two that you highlight, Mr. Sambo, how prevalent are incidents of this nature in Mpumalanga of pupils falling ill after having consumed some kind of food or snack that was bought from either a spaza shop or from informal traders?
Well, I think this is the third case that we are having. We had another one from another school in Komazi, but that was not, I think it was about 6 learners who were affected. And upon inquiring, they indicated that they bought a similar, it's called fizz pops. I think it's some sweets that they procured from one of the local spaza shop in the area of Nkomazi. And when you look at the trend, because it's not only in Mpumalanga, Gauteng experienced, similar, kind of a challenge. It therefore says we need to now to begin to look into this thing, but not only as a department, because we can only do so much as a department. But we have our Department of Economic Development that regulates these spaza shops, but also the Department of Health that has got health inspectors who actually need to actually start to work, around the clock to check these, street vendors and some of these spaza shops that are selling these things to our children, because this will not only affect our children, but we've got our local communities who buy food, from these outlets. And we really need to be vigilant by ensuring that we work together and try and come up with a program that will address this challenge so that we do not have such kind of, challenges in the future. It is worrisome, and we are in an exam period. We don't want to experience this because it will also affect the performance of our learners at the end of the day.
All right, thank you for that. That's Gerald Sambo there, who is the Mpumalanga Education Department spokesperson, talking to us about incidents, the latest incident of children falling ill after having consumed some snack bought from a spaza shop. In fact, let me quickly take a voice note on that issue.
Good morning. Thulasizwe. You see, our intelligence must do their work. Let them find where these people are manufacturing these snacks. They are manufacturing their own things, faking different products. Please. I'm BV Kumalo.
All right, BV Kumalo, let's leave it there for now. That is an interesting take there. The role that you believe intelligence can play. I would say even before we get to the level of it being a national security issue, which I suppose at some level it is, but actually it seems from all the conversations we've been having that it is just about basic assurance of compliance and enforcement of the regulations around handling of food that we already have. That's how we come to 7 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, man accused of Soweto girl's murder to appear in court, and BRICS summit overshadowed by Ukraine war. Good morning. The man who allegedly raped and murdered a 6-year-old girl in Orlando, Soweto, is expected to appear in the Protea Magistrates Court this morning. The suspect was arrested on Wednesday night after a warrant of arrest was issued. He's expected to face charges of rape and murder. The suspect allegedly lured, raped, then murdered the child on Monday in Soweto, leaving the community outraged and demanding justice. Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Tomi Mtombeni.
We would just like to thank the South Africans, the communities where these crimes they are committed, for working with us closely. Those are the communities that are impatient in terms of some of the breakthrough, but we really like to thank the community, and also with the recent case in Orlando for rape and murder of a 6-year-old child.
The DA in Limpopo has welcomed the forensic report into alleged corruption, irregular expenditure and maladministration at the Polokwane municipality. The report reveals supply chain processes were not followed and municipal employees colluded to claim overtime pay while on leave. It also shows the presence of alleged ghost workers in the municipality. DA leader in the municipality, Jacques Aubert, says the outcomes of the report can be attributed to poor management by the current and previous ANC administration.
The most recent Bowman's report into irregularities at the Polokwane municipality, into possible ghost employees, overtime abuse, and the investigation into the beleaguered Mankweng Sports Complex. The recommendations was unanimously approved by Council, and the DA in Polokwane will be eagerly monitoring the progress on the implementation of all the recommendations, including civil action and probable opening of a criminal case against the previous manager in the employ of the municipality.
The Mpumalanga Education Department has called on both parents and school governing bodies to monitor what learners eat at school and outside. 24 pupils from the Enzani Primary School in Matsulu were yesterday rushed to hospital after they complained of abdominal pains and vomiting. It's alleged the learners ate snacks bought from a spaza shop. The Provincial Education Department spokesperson, Gerald Sambos, says they are concerned about incidents of food poisoning at schools.
We are going to rely on the report from the hospital through the Department of Health that will indicate clearly what caused the learners. But the allegations that we're getting from the school is that there are some learners who bought some snacks from a local spaza shops, and they suspect that these snacks is the cause, of this sickness. These learners ranges from between 6 and 12.
The South African Poultry Association plans to submit its application for VAT-free chicken products to Parliament. The association says it identified zero-rated chicken as one of the critical pillars to secure future growth for poultry producers and also help low-income houses with food security. It expects to finalize the application to National Treasury by next month. The Chief Executive Officer of the South African Poultry Association, Isak Breitenbach.
The first thing is obviously the high cost of poultry. We are the first go-to meat protein that people would consume. But also, secondly to that is malnutrition. We find that a lot of people in the lower income brackets do not have access to poultry or not access to enough poultry meat to be nutritionally sufficient for the person. And if we exempt chicken from VAT, it will certainly give more chicken to people that buy chicken, but it will also put chicken in the basket of people that hasn't had the money before to buy chicken.
And finally, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has told Russia's President Vladimir Putin that the invasion of Ukraine violated international law and the UN Charter. The two met for the first time in more than 2 years at the BRICS summit in Russia's city of Kazan. At the summit in Russia, Venezuela criticized Brazil's decision to veto its submission to the BRICS group of emerging economies. Putin says he agrees with the Venezuelan position. The BBC's Leonardo Rocha reports.
In a statement, the Venezuelan Foreign Ministry described Brazil's move as an inexplicable act of aggression. Relations between the two left-wing governments have deteriorated since July's contested presidential election. President Nicolás Maduro said he had secured re-election despite evidence that the opposition candidate Edmundo González won by a landslide. President Lula da Silva initially supported him, but eventually said he wouldn't accept the official results until Mr. Maduro published a breakdown of the vote.
Recapping the top story, the man who allegedly raped and murdered a 6-year-old girl in Orlando, Soweto, is expected to appear in the Protea Magistrates Court this morning. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one Outsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to phone Outsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Busier than you might be expecting coming out of Pretoria down to Joburg this morning. We think it's Friday, but it's also payday having an impact. So there's noticeably much more traffic than you would normally get on a Friday morning. Traffic already sitting from Old Joburg Road down through to New Road. There's some real pressure off the highway as well. Olifantsfontein coming through from Blue Hills and arriving in on Olifantsfontein the other side from Clayville. The Old Joburg Road there around that sort of old Teasers premises. All very slow through that part of Midrand. Still dealing with some heavy traffic in from Protea Glen towards Joburg. It's a crash on the N12 eastbound before you get to the Golden Highway exit, which is causing the delay. Got the usual breakdowns in the roadworks just south of Pietermaritzburg. There's one at Ashburton. That's causing quite a delay already with traffic parking back through towards the Market Road exit. There's also a breakdown at Cliffdale, Key Ridge Cliffdale. So if you're heading from Durban up to Pietermaritzburg, that traffic already just starting to slow up quite badly. Of course, there are some lane restrictions for roadworks. Cape Town crash on Viking Way at Jakes Curville Drive, and a crash on Bosmansdam Road at the N7, causing some fairly heavy backlogging out of Edgemead and Boortesak areas. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action, Banyana. They have a tough tour, which begins with a match against Denmark today. And Bafana's Ronwen Williams nominating the 2024 CAF Awards. We'll bring you details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 7 on this Friday. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It's good to be with you on this Friday morning. Lots of ground to cover within this hour. Coming up in the next few minutes, we'll be focusing on these 7 words, that seem to have stirred the hornet's nest within the Government of National Unity. Russia is a valuable ally and friend. The words that President Ramaphosa said on the sidelines of the BRICS summit when he had a bilateral with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Kazan in Russia a few days ago. Well, these 7 words have now have started what is increasingly becoming a war of words within the Government of National Unity. The DA is adamant that it does not consider Russia or Vladimir Putin to be a friend or an ally. The presidency, on the other hand, is hitting back, accusing the DA leader and the Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen, of seeking to micromanage the president. So we'll bring that conversation into focus in the next few minutes, but also frame it against what was agreed to. What did these parties agree on the issue of foreign policy, how foreign policy was going to be conducted within the Government of National Unity? It's all entailed in the statement of intent, but does that statement of intent replace the roles of the various players, including the president, in driving and representing South Africa's foreign policy on the global stage? We'll also focus on this story. The lobby group Gun Free South Africa is urging government to strengthen its gun control strategies to put an end to the recent spate of mass shootings in the country. The group, which fights against the existence of illegal firearms, says its research has revealed that in less than 3 months, more than 100 people have died in mass shooting incidents throughout the country. Of course, the latest among these include that incident in New Brighton that I was telling you about yesterday, but in the last 24 to 48 hours, 2 incidents happening in the Western Cape, including in the area of Bishop Lavis, which has seen 6 people killed in a mass shooting. So on and on it goes. Every day, another mass shooting in South Africa. Gun Free South Africa saying that actually we need to get a hold and a grip on the situation of proliferation of firearms in our country. I will be taking your calls, and the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. You can also send me a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. If you can, please try and limit these to about a minute. If you can keep it shorter, even better. It increases the chances of us playing it out on air and also being able to interact and engage with it and taking as many of your voice notes as possible. This is SAFM, and we are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one OUTsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to phone OUTsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
The Danes and Banyana Banyana are meeting for the very first time. The 12th world-ranked women's national team want to triumph on home soil. However, African champions have a different notion in mind. They want to be the victors on foreign ground. Europe clashes with Africa. This is the international friendly, red and white versus green and gold. Catch the breathtaking clash between Denmark and South Africa on Friday, 25 October at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Did you know the National Department of Transport has allocated 7.7 billion rand in the form of bus subsidies for the 2024-2025 financial year, which is a 4.5% increase from the previous financial year. Since the inception of the taxi recapitalization program, 83,712 old taxi vehicles have been scrapped and 5.9 billion rand paid to taxi operators. The National Learner Transport Program carries 707,053 learners and provides transport to learners to access schools. The National Bicycle Program, Shovagalula, has distributed bicycles to 122,307 learners since its inception in 2001 as part of the National Learner Transport Policy. In the current MTSF period, the department has distributed 32,307 bicycles. Doing more together, building better infrastructure and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Right, let's focus on this issue now. The issue that has really dominated much of the conversation in the last 2 days or so. The Democratic Alliance says it is resolute in its position that while it serves in the national government of national unity, it does not consider Russia or its president, Vladimir Putin, to be a friend or an ally. This comes after President Cyril Ramaphosa told the Russian president during a meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit that South Africa values Russia as an ally and a partner. In response, Ramaphosa's spokesperson Vincent Magwenya has said that while the DA may maintain its own foreign policy, it could not and will not impose its position on the president and will not micromanage the president. Vele Okamp is the DA national spokesperson and joins me now for that conversation. Good morning to you, Mr. Okamp. What about what the president said, friend and ally, irked you as the DA? Because some would say, objectively speaking, whether the president said it or not, Russia is actually a friend and ally of South Africa, whether stated or not.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thulasizwe, we are not the same South Africa as we have been before May this year. We do not have the ANC governing South Africa outright and alone anymore. We have got the DA as his biggest partner and several other parties as partners within this government of national unity. So it is not business as usual like before. And I think it is very important that the ANC must come to terms with the fact that they do not govern alone anymore. So the reason why we are very, very irritated about what the president said is that we are standing on a stage in the international arena with our president, who then goes and he says that Vladimir Putin and Russia is an ally of our nation and of the GNU. And that is not so.
He does not speak on behalf of the whole of the GNU because he knows that there are certain parties within the government of national unity that does absolutely not support that stance. And I think there should be more respect from the ANC's side with regards to what they've agreed to in the Declaration of Intent to assist and help to iron out problems that might be there. And the president knew that the DA and other parties does not see Russia or Vladimir Putin as a friend, but still he goes onto a stage and he says that, you know, Thulasizwe, at the time when South Africa, like now, for the first time is experiencing renewed optimism, let's say for the first time in almost 2 decades, our government simply cannot afford to make statements that could jeopardize international relations or trade opportunities. They are crucial for realizing our key objectives of growth and job creation. To give you an idea, Thulasizwe, if you look at foreign trade, in terms of foreign direct investment, the EU, whose majority of members are NATO members that are opposed to this war in Ukraine, our foreign direct investment from the EU accounts for 54% of all foreign direct investments in South Africa. But South Africa's trade with Russia is so insignificant that last year it was less than 0.3%. So how can you stand up and speak out and say, you, Mr. 0.3%, who is invading another country, you are my friend and my ally?
You know
that
what
is
would,
unacceptable.
you know what undermines your position, Mr. Ocamp, is the position that was taken by your leader, John Steenhuisen, recently when he was asked whether he would travel with the president if he was invited to travel to Russia. That willingness to consider traveling to Russia the same way that he did with the trip to China weakens your position because it says that you yourselves consider it worthwhile to pursue some kind of a diplomatic relationship with Russia.
Remember, the trip to Russia was not a trip per se to Russia, it's a BRICS summit. And when John Steenhuisen said that he will go, he did not say, I will go to Russia alone. He said that he will attend the BRICS summit. Now, there's a huge difference. At the BRICS summit, we've got other countries, Brazil, India, China, trading partners of South Africa that are there.
But hang on.
What Mr. Steenhuisen also made clear
but hang on.
is that he will act in the best interest of the country.
That argument doesn't hold, Mr. Ocamp. Traveling to Russia has the effect of, we've been saying in the last few days, the analysis has been that the presence of these world leaders there says to the West in particular that while you say Vladimir Putin is isolated, actually he's not. Had Mr. Steenhuisen traveled there, that would have been the same message that says he's actually not isolated. So I understand the distinction you are seeking to make, BRICS versus Russia, but the BRICS summit was taking place in Russia, a country that you're saying basically you don't consider a friend or an ally of South Africa.
Well, this is exactly, again, what we said from day one when we entered this GNU, is that we must, in everything that we do, try 2 things, to achieve 2 things. We must create growth and we must create job opportunities. When Minister Steenhuisen joined the president when they went to China, it was precisely to attain that, and that they did. If you look at the deals that the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, signed with his counterpart in China, it's definitely going to enhance agriculture in this country. It will create growth and it will give us job creation in the same sentence. So should he have gone and went to the BRICS summit, that would have been for the same reasons. You are not there only speaking to Russia or only listening to them. You are there to speak to your counterparts and to try and negotiate the best deal possible within BRICS and the best benefits for South Africa with all the BRICS partners. The mere fact that it's been held in Russia does not disqualify you from going. There's a lot of people, a lot in Russia, that does not condone the war that's going on in Ukraine. There's a lot of good people in Russia that does not want this war. So to say that it's disingenuous from him to would have gone to Russia but then say that it is wrong of him to speak out when the president makes a statement like this, Thulasizwe, is not correct.
Sure.
Again, I'm bringing you back, Thulasizwe, sorry, I'm bringing you back to the statement of intent that was signed by all parties. And in that statement of intent, it says in clause 11.9 that as parties of this GNU, we agreed that the seventh administration should focus on the following priorities. Then 11.9 comes and says foreign policy based on human rights. Now let's ask ourselves, is Vladimir Putin applying human rights in Ukraine? No, he's not. Constitutionalism, the national interest, and this comes into the question that you've just asked.
Yeah.
Is it in the national interest to make a trade deal with China and with BRICS? Absolutely it is.
BRICS includes Russia, though. But hang on a second,
to each
Mr.
other
Ocamp.
that must be a big priority.
I've heard you. Let me take one or two of my callers to weigh in. Just hold on for a second and hear from some of our listeners. Kabelo, joining us from Durban. Good morning, Kabelo. You want to talk to me about Russia and Ukraine, and you want to weigh in on this conversation that we are having. Yes, sir.
It's okay for the DA to support the Israel, the Zionists, to kill the people in Gaza. It's okay. Now, the DA, in fact, I hate the ANC. Because the DA now, they think they're in government. They are not in government. Ramaphosa was speaking on behalf of South Africa, the majority of people in South Africa. And the DA, they were killing our people and torturing our people during apartheid. The Russian government, they were in with us. Now we must go. This guy must go to 2014. The treaty that Russia has signed. Then NATO, 1940 something, they say they're not going to expand NATO in.
All right, thank you for that. That's Kabelo out in Durban. What do you say to that, Mr. Ocamp? You juxtapose what you are saying about Russia against your position on Israel.
Kabelo, I want to answer Kabelo on every single one of the accusations that he made. Firstly, he said that we are supporting Israel. We are not. The Democratic Alliance has, for many years, and especially since the start of this conflict and war there in the Middle East, we have been neutral on this. We have said that we want a two-state solution where a free Palestine can live alongside a safe Israel. In this war, now, with Gaza, the DA has long been calling for a ceasefire. Mm-hmm. We've called for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. We have, and I don't think that a lot of people know this, we have condemned the illegal Israeli settlements on the West Bank. We have called for the restoration of the 1967 borders in line with long-standing UN resolutions. We've called from the DA side for more food, fuel, and aid, human aid, to go into Gaza. So people has got the wrong perception of this.
All right.
To come back to the DA is not in government.
I do need to.
I
do need to take a few more calls before I let you go, Mr. Ocamp. So let's move on very quickly. Itumeleng in Mahikeng, you have a question for my guest. Good morning,
Mr. Ocamp. America is supplying Israel with all the bombs and the new technology in the world, and killing children and mothers and pregnant mothers and school children in Israel. Have the DA went public to denounce this action by the Israelis? We know that the DA is openly supporting Israel, and if you say Russia is not promoting human rights in Ukraine, does Israel and America promote human rights in Gaza, Hezbollah, and all those countries that they are taking there in the Middle East? Thank you.
Mr. Ocamp?
Itumeleng, thank you for the question. I think you, with all due respect, make the same mistake as the previous caller by saying the DA supports Israel. That is not correct. The DA have said, and I'm going to say this again, the DA has asked for a free Palestine being alongside a safe Israel. Two states that governs each other alone. And we've been asking that for a very long time.
I suppose, Mr. Ocamp, if I can just jump in there and perhaps direct you to an aspect of Itumeleng's question, the role of the United States. If the president decides that he's going to travel and meet with President Joe Biden, would it be as problematic as what has happened with Vladimir Putin, in the sense that, as Itumeleng says, the United States is supporting Israel with arms, and those arms are being used in Gaza to inflict a lot of the atrocities that we are seeing there. Would you have a problem then?
It will absolutely not be the same problem, the same situation. We must remember, we must distinguish here between two things. In the case of Russia and Ukraine, it was Russia that invaded a non-aggressor independent country, which Russia invaded. In the case of Israel and Hamas and Gaza, yes, we know that there's a long, sad history surrounding that. But in this instance, it was Hamas that on the 7th of October attacked Israel. And then we must remember, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran is the axis of resistance against Israel. The intention is to obliterate Israel, who has got the right to self-defense against this existential threat. So if one country comes and say, I'm going to obliterate you, you must be able to defend yourself.
Right.
For many months now, Hezbollah has been firing rockets into Israel. And surely Israel must be able to defend itself. Iran is now firing ballistic missiles into Israel as well. So it's not only about the war in Gaza itself. It's about the resistance against Israel. And surely Israel must be able to defend itself.
But you surely can say, Mr. Ocamp, that it's gone beyond defending itself. Surely that's self-evident by this point.
Well, as I say, I don't want to go into the Israeli war itself and the actions, but they must be able to defend themselves. If they are being attacked by Hezbollah, firing rockets into Israel, we saw what happened in the last month, surely they must be able to defend themselves. As I said, Iran is now firing ballistic missiles. Must Israel sit back? But this is the thing. We've been asking for a ceasefire from the Democratic Alliance's side for many months now, and we are pushing and asking for a peaceful resolution.
Yeah.
But to try and compare America's involvement there with what Russia is doing in the Ukraine, it's not on. You cannot compare. America has not invaded any country. Neither has any of the European nations invaded a country, whereas the Ukrainian people were invaded by Russia, and without provocation at all. And again, remember what happened in the Middle East. Who was the initiators of this aggression? It happened on the 7th of October.
Mr. Ocamp, let's close it off with a yes or no question and answer from you. Do you or do you not support South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice? Yes or no?
Well, firstly, Thulasizwe, you should know as a seasoned journalist that there's no way in which I will just answer yes or no to a question. The question has got a very deeper meaning in it. Thulasizwe, when we are doing anything in South Africa, and that is what Clause 11.9 said. If you look at Clause 11.9 of the agreement that was signed between all the parties to this GNU, it said clearly that we must have the national interest at heart.
All right.
And we are now talking about wars in Ukraine and in Russia, but you know what? We're not talking about the war against...
Yeah. No, I do apologize. I do have to end it there. That's Vele Ocamp, who is the DA spokesperson, talking to us about their position around the statement by President Ramaphosa. They're saying Russia is a friend and ally of South Africa. Completely out of time. Let me go straight to N. Musa with an update of the news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headline, 6 people aged between 24 and 55 have been killed in a mass shooting incident in Bishop Lavis on the Cape Flats. Police say an armed suspect entered an informal dwelling and fired several shots at the occupants. The man who allegedly raped and murdered a 6-year-old girl in Orlando in Soweto is expected to appear in the Protea Magistrates Court this morning. The suspect was arrested on Wednesday night after a warrant of arrest was issued. And the ANC says its Government of National Unity partner, the DA's objection to President Cyril Ramaphosa's comments on Russia being an ally to South Africa during his address at the BRICS summit is misplaced. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement.
This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do? Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Twinkly Twatha registered 4 draws in their opening 4 matches of the season. Now they strictly won 3 points. But Babinanuko wants a permanent home in the top 5. KZN takes on Limpopo. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Royal AM versus Sikukune United this Saturday, 26 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Powerball is bringing the excitement with an estimated 20 million rand jackpot. But that's not all. Powerball Plus is turning up the thrill with a guaranteed 65 million rand jackpot this Friday. Play Powerball and Powerball Plus today for your chance at big millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A top story for Joburg motorists has been the backlog on the N12 from Protea Glendon Asia up towards the Golden Highway exit after an earlier crash. It looks like things are recovering. It's still very slow, though. A couple of issues on the N1. There's some delays through Deepcliff Interchange at Uncle Charlie's. More delays up towards the Gordon Road exit. And another slowdown just after 14th Avenue. Plenty of traffic on Route 1 today. R24 out of the airport to Barbara Road, looking pretty sluggish. N1 out of Pretoria down to Midrand. Slower than you might think. Don't leave it too late to get out this Friday. Lights down on Pretoria East section of Solomon, Mashlangu. There's some real delays both sides of Silver Lakes, and the N4 inbound queuing heavily through Vitamin Street down towards the N1 highway. A really busy Friday around KZN. We got a crash and a breakdown at Ashburton. If you're coming out of Pietermaritzburg, that is a long backlog of traffic back past and beyond Market Road. Also a breakdown around the Cliffdale Key Ridge area on your way through to Pietermaritzburg. So some big traffic backing up on that section of roadway. Even the M13 out from Hillcrest to get into that N3 is under pressure. Got a breakdown as well on the N2 South this morning before Spaghetti Junction, so extra pressure coming down from Inunda Road. And the N2 North is busy anyway, so jam-packed both ways around 4 level. Cape Town, lots of traffic across Jakes Curville Drive, queuing up from Vangate Mall, passing Langa. More queues into Goodwood's 4 Trekker Road, very busy. And 35th Avenue, heading up towards a sort of Francie Fun Sale from Aitsak up through in towards Parow. Unusual queues there. Bosmansdam Road at the N7, an earlier crash still causing big delays out of Boortessuck and the Edgemead areas. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
All right, Zai, I'm going to give you a moment to tell your dad joke. Banyana are playing Denmark, that you are hoping they are not?
They're heading to Denmark, and we know they'll be dangerously...
The Danes.
The Danes. They'll be
Okay.
dangerously holding their own. Yeah, I know. Against the likes of the Great Danes, you know. That's what I can tell you. This team is ranked 12th in the world, but our coach, Desiree Ellis, is having none of it. 3 p.m. is the kickoff. Now, they've also got... another team that's in weight, that's England, the reigning European champions next. And this match today will mark the beginning of Banyana's journey towards WAFCON. Here's Coach Desiree Ellis on the team's preparations.
Started a bit rusty yesterday, but I think as the session went on, it got all better and better. So really excited. The enthusiasm was there. You know, we worked on a few things, obviously. Hadn't played in a couple of months, so it was just getting them to gel together. And I thought it went really, really well. I was really impressed, you know, because after a long while, it's not what you expect. But I think the players are really committed to doing well on this tour. We all know what we're preparing for. It's the WAFCON, and I think everybody needs to raise their hands.
And you can catch the match live on SABC Sport. In the meantime, Bafana captain Ronwen Williams continues his stellar run, earning 3 nominations for the 2024 CAF Awards. Williams, who plays for Mamelodi Sundowns, is in the running for the African Player of the Year, Goalkeeper of the Year and Interclub Player of the Year. His incredible performances, including saving 4 penalties in the AFCON quarterfinals, have made him a standout on both the national and international stage. Sundowns also received a nomination for Club of the Year after securing the African Football League title. Now, the SuperSport United coach Gavin Hunt is pleased that the hierarchy has gone the extra mile in addressing their lack of depth by signing striker Abubakar Nasser. The Ethiopian forward joined on a 1-year deal from crosstown rivals Mamelodi Sundowns. Now, following his move to Downs during the 2022-23 season, then coach Rulani Mokoena described Nasser as a ceiling raiser after he scored off the bench in a 4-0 drubbing of Kaizer Chiefs. Here's SuperSport United coach Gavin Hunt.
Get that guy, if we can have that guy. So we know he's, there's a bit of pace in him, which is what we need. And he can play in a front 3. I think he can play in a front 2. I don't think he can play by himself, but he can give us options if he's fit, but it's no good if he's not fit.
An action elsewhere, Fenerbahce boss Jose Mourinho was sent to the stands as his new side held his former club Manchester United 1-1 last night to extend the English Giants' wait for a Europa League win. João Felix scored twice as Chelsea won 4-1 at Panathinaikos in an emotional night in the Europa League conference. And finally, tennis, the 5-time Grand Slam singles champion Maria Sharapova and Bob and Mike Bryan, twins, who won a record 16 major titles in men's doubles, are the first ballot selections for the International Tennis Hall of Fame.
I remember the first time I ever, thought of the prestige of the Hall of Fame was after winning my first Grand Slam, and the Hall of Fame asking if, they would have a dress to showcase in the museum. And then I was like, oh my goodness.
It's been a great ride, the career doing it together. There's a lot of people that were involved in our careers, obviously our parents who made tennis fun for us, supported us along the way.
That's a wrap of your Sport on the Morning Brief. More top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lichela. Ndauling, I see that Anglo-American is considering further cuts to diamond production. Why is that? Diamonds are a girl's best friend, your best friend, I believe.
They are my best friend, but hey, Julius, we don't have money. That's the problem. So the move here is driven by weak demand, particularly in China, and oversupply issues. The mining giant, which plans to sell or spin off its De Beers diamond business, has seen prices slump. Lab-grown stones have also added to the pressure. Company CEO Duncan Wanblond emphasized that the diamond market remains challenging, citing high inventory levels in the midstream segment. As a result, the company will assess options to reduce production alongside its partners. Now, as Anglo's unbundling plans gains traction, it's confirmed that it is willing to wait for a market recovery before selling the diamond unit to ensure De Beers fetches a suitable price. Now, in Anglo-American's third quarter update, diamond production dropped 25% due to those market conditions. Despite a softening there, the miner reported operational improvements in other areas, leading to increased production guidance for nickel and refined PGMs. Reflecting on the quarter, Wanblond says it is making progress with simplifying its portfolio, on track with divesting from some of those assets like PGMs and steel-making coal assets, focusing more on copper, premium iron ore, and crop nutrients.
And tell me why Afrimat is upbeat about South Africa's prospects?
So building materials and mining company Afrimat joining the likes of some companies, some local companies turning positive on South Africa's economic prospects. To us, the group says its construction materials division is poised to make further gains as it notes more spending going towards construction of roads and the upgrade of rail systems. Company CEO Andries van Heerden further said that they're seeing a gradual uptick in the construction of commercial buildings. Now, the positive outlook comes alongside its half-year earnings, where it delivered a 44% jump in revenue. This, however, didn't filter through to its bottom line as profits fell by close to 80%. This was mainly due to a slump in iron ore prices, as one of its biggest customers, also ArcelorMittal SA, shut down 2 of its furnaces during the reporting period. This issue, however, has been solved, allowing sales volumes to stabilize. Afrimat's recently acquired cement business also dragged down profits, but a turnaround is taking hold there, and the group has assured shareholders that it's on track to break even this month, if not next month. Despite falling earnings, Afrimat still declared a dividend coming in at 10 cents per share, about 75% lower than the last reporting period's payout of 40 cents per share.
Finally, Ntauleng, please give us a recap of the markets here at home in Asia and the United States.
Now, starting off in Asia, markets mixed, with Chinese stocks making big gains this morning following global peers. But the Japanese Nikkei is trending lower as a stronger yen provided a headwind for those shares. With that, the Japanese Nikkei is down 0.9%. Over in Wall Street, futures are in the red, a turnaround from yesterday's gains. Traders on that front still eyeing earnings reports. And then back at home, markets recovering as the global sell-off hit a pause. The JSE All Share closing 0.5% higher in yesterday's trading session. These gains, however, not filtering through to the currency front, even as the dollar slips. The local unit trading at 17.67 to the greenback, slightly stronger than an hour ago, but it's still on the back foot.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela watching the economy as well as business and the markets here at home and around the world, and doing it all for you here on The Morning Brief. She'll be back with one more update just before the resumption of trade in the JSE, and that's just before 9 a.m.
For years, Outsurance has been saying they'll save you money on your car insurance, or you can ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand cash if they don't. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
I was not happy with what I was paying. I heard about the 500 Rand from Outsurance, but they give me lesser amount for my car. I'm paying 523 Rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim free for 3 years or more, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
SV Werder Bremen have already calculated that victory will keep them in the top half, while fourth-place reigning champions Bayer Leverkusen are searching for the special key to open the door heading to the summit. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting encounter between SV Werder Bremen and Bayer Leverkusen this Saturday, 26 October at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. Botswana and Mauritius will be bumper to bumper on each other's heels, looking for maximum points during the 12 midday clash. While at 3 p.m., the Malawians aim for a win against Madagascar, who are also highly interested in 3 points. This is the doubleheader of the Hollywood-based Kasapa Women's Championship. Catch both clashes on Saturday, 26 October, live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Outsurance, they understand my business. They are so good in terms of communication, which gives me confidence. It's a good decision that I've made to move to Outsurance. I'm a winner. I want to be with the winners.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Africa Update on SAFM.
All right, let's say good morning to Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So we start in Mozambique. I see that after a long wait, we finally have the official results out, and it's Frelimo all the way.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, what we had yesterday, Frelimo candidate Daniel Chapo got 70%. Podemos, led by Venancio Mondlane, got only 20%, pushing Renamo to the third place, Thulas, for the first time. But Frelimo also gaining more seats in parliament. From 195, they got more than 250 seats. But remember, Thulas, from here, where to now? Mondlane has until the end of the year to can contest those results, meaning Chapo will only be sworn into office, Thulas, in January 2025. Electoral Commission has not come out clear about the vote rigging, and at the same time, Frelimo didn't say anything about this alleged vote rigging that has taken place.
And then at the same time, while we're watching the results from Mozambique, it's getting ever closer. We're inching ever closer to the election in Botswana.
That's quite true. Today, actually, we're expecting the head of the Africa Observer Mission, the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, to land in Gaborone to lead that AU Observer Mission. To that very important mission, the 13th general election since 1965, where they'll be electing 61 members of parliament, 609 local council representatives. These elections are very crucial to us. The SADC has landed, the AU is landing today through its head of mission.
And out in the Great Lakes, I see some important developments there around the constitution in the Democratic Republic of Congo. What's happening with that?
Tshisekedi wants to set up a commission to us to review the constitution, but others are saying, are you not trying to go for the third term? And he say no. If you look back, the 2006 constitution that was drafted went through referendum, and that was the text of 2003. It was later revised in 2011. So he have assured people that this is nothing to do with a presidential term.
Lastly, in your historical archives, Sipho, you're taking us all the way to, did I read this correctly? 1900, 25 October 1900. What happened? Why so far back?
Thulas, we are celebrating the mother of Fela Kuti, Fela Anikulapo Kuti. Umama Funimilayo Ransom Kuti was born on this day. If she was alive, she would have been 124 years. Thulas, a great woman who was an activist who can organize 20,000 women, whether literate or illiterate, to be on the streets. And remember, 1978, he was thrown out in the second floor by the military men that invaded his son's compound, that we know as Kalakuta Republic in Nigeria. So today we are remembering the mother of Fela Anikulapo Kuti. Asante sana Thulas Eswatini in the conversation, SAFM.
Thank you for that, Sipho Mantula there with the Africa Update. Always fascinating, always triggering us to just reflect on our history and heritage as a continent, as he does on a daily basis.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's some really heavy traffic around the nation's capital this morning. Pretoria East first up, some traffic light outages along Solomon Mashlangu, so some really heavy delays around the N4, and then from Silver Lakes through towards the sort of Atterbury Road junction, if you like. There's some real big backlog going on there. The N4, heavy queues from Vitameyer Street inbound towards the N1, and Eski and Pathlali lined up quite heavy into Pretoria CBD. Apart from those, the issues, Pretoria not having a bad Friday. Crash on the N1 North near Gordon Road. Traffic coming out of Soweto on your way towards Rudaport and Randburg, really starting to backlog. And just in the south, if you come at the top of Katlehong towards Alberton, Heidelberg Road from the N3 up to the old Vereeniging Road, there's a very unusual backlog. Durban also having a very busy morning as well. Have a listen to this. There's a breakdown, stationary vehicle at Spaghetti Junction. That's on the southbound side, so that's queuing from Inanda. There's a crash going northbound amongst the roadworks. That crash just up before Mgena Road, So the N2 North is staying very heavy from the M7 inbound towards the N2 queue. There's a big backlog from Pavilion Mall and outbound from Sherwood. There's some real issues getting off that N3 and turning into that enormous queue on the N2 going north. Queues through Pinetown towards Fields Hill. That section of the M13 under pressure. Breakdown at Cliffdale. So the N3 and the M13 out from Hillcrest really heavy out through that Key Ridge area. And we've got a crash at Ashburton and I believe a broken down truck in the mix as well on top of the roadwork. So the run from Pietermaritzburg is extremely busy. Backlogs almost a sort of New England road territory. It's really heavy coming out of Pietermaritzburg on the way down to Durban this morning, at least until you get to that Ashburton crash scene. Cape Town, no traffic lights still. Bosmansdam Road at the N7. Some very heavy backlogging coming out of the Edgemead and Summer Greens area. Marine Drive moving okay through Loxton Road this morning. And the other big issue is really around Jakes Curville Drive, the N7, badly backed up both ways into Voortrekker Road at Goodwood. Mitchell's Plain stays really busy, particularly along AZ Berman and the M7 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Get 2+1 cheapest free on the widest range of healthy food options at Dis-Chem this weekend from Friday 25 to Sunday 27 October. Switch to healthy alternatives on pastas, spreads, sauces and spices, health drinks, nuts and snacks. Explore our wide range of free from sugar, gluten and dairy and all your favorite breakfast cereals and mueslis. Get 2+1 on health foods this weekend only, Friday 25 to Sunday 27 October. Only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Powerball is bringing the excitement with an estimated 20 million rand jackpot. But that's not all. Powerball Plus is turning up the thrill with a guaranteed 65 million rand jackpot this Friday. Play Powerball and Powerball Plus today for your chance at big millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. Etuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Southern African Queens of the Beautiful Game will produce real drama, passion, and excitement on Monday, 28 October. Madagascar tackles Botswana live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, while Mauritius confront Malawi on SABC Plus. Both matches kick off at 12 midday. Then at 3 p.m., seven-time champion South Africa clashes with Seychelles on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. And Eswatini faces Namibia, also at 3 p.m. Everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus. This is the Hollywood Best Cassava Women's Championship, proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Twickley Twatha registered 4 draws in their opening 4 matches of the season. Now they strictly won 3 points. But Babinanuko wants a permanent home in the top 5. KZN takes on Limpopo. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Royal AM versus Sikukune United this Saturday, 26 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
So let's go back to that conversation around the differences between the DA and President Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC, on the other hand, to do with foreign policy, especially the words that were said by President Ramaphosa that Russia is a friend and ally of South Africa, to which, of course, the DA has now responded and absolutely rejected that, and it has stirred quite the debate. Let's bring into that conversation Professor Andre Duvenage, who is from the University of the Northwest and a political analyst. Good morning to you, Prof. Thank you for your time. So just your broad reading of what is at the heart of these differences between these parties. They have a statement of intent, they've agreed on some principles, but it seems where it's now being tested, the unity of that government of national unity is being tested on foreign policy.
I would like to start by saying I'm going to be very brief that the new BRICS is very important information in world politics. You cannot ignore it. It has about 50% of the population, 30% plus of the gross domestic product of the world. So it's a very influential environment. But it also comes with its challenges. On the other side, you have the West. And I think it is in South Africa's interest to do a balancing trick in order
to be not on the one side, but to see how you can benefit by sound interaction with both sides. That's a general principle. Taking this to South Africa, there's no doubt that the government of national unity is facing major challenges from within. And I can mention a number of things, of which foreign policy is a very important one. At the core lies fundamental ideological differences. I have, however, a problem with the ANC's view with regard to Russia. Russia is a huge problem, and Russia is only one part of BRICS. But the problem with Russia is that it is a dictatorship. It has killed its opposition leaders. Navalny is an example of this. What we have seen with Ukraine is a form of colonization. And it's interesting that the ANC will address the Israel-Palestinian question on a certain level of human rights, democracy, etc., but not assessing Russia at the same time. In that sense, it is problematic. In another way, it is also problematic that when you have a government of national unity, you cannot just follow your own line. You need to buy in consensus. And on basis of consensus, you need to go forward. And it seems as if South Africa, and that's not only a problem of the ANC, is struggling with the new rules of coalition politics and to implement that in a successful way.
Prof, is it not a product of how the basic minimum program, which is part of the statement of intent, framed this question of how foreign policy would be approached in rather vague terms, talking about it being based on human rights, constitutionalism, the national interest, solidarity, peaceful resolution of conflicts to achieve African agenda, etc., etc. It has been the observation of someone like Professor Anthony van Nieuwkerk that actually this language is positive. However, it is bland, technical style, and is perhaps deliberately vague.
Yes, there's no doubt that that is 100% correct. And if you look at the basic content of the agreement, you will find that it is basically emphasizing general, broad constitutional principles, and is definitely not to the level of party policies where ideology and a different life and worldview is coming into play, and how you will present solutions for certain problems. And these are the type of things we need to solve within a coalition environment. It needs a complete new set of values of accommodating each other, finding consensus, transparency.
I asked that, Prof, because perhaps it could be argued that perhaps the one side of the government of national unity wants to emphasize one of the elements, human rights, whereas another side may be thinking the national interest comes first, solidarity comes first.
Yes, there's no doubt that emphasis will differ, and one will put within their political paradigm or policy framework or ideology, whatever you would like to call it, certain things higher on the agenda than others. These are the type of things we need to sort, but it's a building process. It's going to take time. You cannot reach that consensus in 3 or 4 months.
All right, Prof, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Professor Andre Duvenage from the University of the Northwest, a political analyst. At 8 a.m., let's take the news with Ann Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, another mass shooting in Cape Town and man accused of Soweto girl's murder to appear in court. Good morning. 6 people have been killed in a mass shooting incident in Bishop Lavis on the Cape Flats. Police say an armed suspect entered an informal dwelling last night and fired several shots at the occupants. 2 others were injured. The Bishop Lavis shooting incident occurs on the back of another shooting incident in which 5 people was shot and killed in Atlantis on the Cape West Coast on Wednesday evening. Police spokesperson Novella Potelwa says the anti-gang unit detectives are investigating the cases. No arrests have yet been made. The man who allegedly raped and murdered a 6-year-old girl in Orlando, Soweto, is expected to appear in the Protea Magistrates Court this morning. The suspect was arrested on Wednesday night after a warrant of arrest was issued. He's expected to face charges of rape and murder. The suspect allegedly lured, raped, then murdered the child on Monday in Soweto, leaving the community outraged and demanding justice. The ANC says its government of national unity partner the DA's objection to President Cyril Ramaphosa's comments on Russia being an ally to South Africa during his address at the BRICS summit is misplaced. The partners are at odds over their clashing foreign policy stances, which has led to the DA accusing Ramaphosa of not respecting the GNU agreements. Mahlengi Bengu Mutsiri is the ANC's spokesperson.
It's a really misplaced conversation given the fact that there's nothing in that statement of intent that suggests that the president needs to consult anyone in executing the roles of a president that are enshrined in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And the idea that the president needs to go and consult with all the parties in the GNU and the DA, which describes itself as the key partner in the GNU, something that we don't quite understand because the statement in intent talks about partners to the GNU. So there's nothing that requires the president to go and consult about implementing a policy of government.
The KwaZulu-Natal Premier Tamin Ntuli has assured tourists visiting the province for the festive season of their safety. This follows the launch of the Provincial Integrated Safer Festive Season campaign yesterday. Ntuli said the campaign included the signing of a cooperation agreement, marking a united commitment by law enforcement, local government and community stakeholders to bolster crime prevention efforts.
It was an assurance to those who visit KwaZulu-Natal during the festive season, even the people who are living in KwaZulu-Natal, that we are on board in terms of ensuring that we provide safety measures to everyone. Hence, we're launching this safer festive season for KwaZulu-Natal with not only the police, but even with the private sector like business against crime and even these private securities in the area, the neighborhood watch, your CPFs.
And finally, King Charles has warned the Commonwealth Summit that climate change risks exacerbating inequalities and conflict. He was speaking at the opening of the Heads of Government meeting in Samoa. The King also says the Commonwealth should acknowledge its painful history amid calls for reparations by London to countries affected by the transatlantic slave trade. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the slave trade was despicable, but he has ruled out an apology for the country's role in the trade.
You know, we recognise that, and of course apologies have already been made in relation to the slave trade, and that's not surprising, it's what you would expect. But if you then go on to the question, you know, we're 55 countries here represented, and say in the conversations I've already had, what are the things that have come up most? I can tell you their resilience, particularly with some of the smaller countries, about the impact of climate on them.
Recapping the top stories, 6 people have been killed in a mass shooting incident in Bishop Lavis on the Cape Flats. The incident occurs on the back of another shooting incident in which 5 people were shot and killed in Atlantis on the Cape West Coast on Wednesday. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. With Outsurance Essential, your older car is the star of the show. Outsurance Essential is designed and priced for older cars with the cover you need. After an accident, claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. And Outsurance will cover the cost of the car you bumped into for up to 1 million rand. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite a heavy backlog getting out of Soweto on your way through towards Randburg and Roodepoort. It's a collision up by the Gordon Road exit. The M1 currently backed up towards about the N17. Soweto off-ramp very heavy out of Soweto this morning. The N1 through Midrand normalising now. Got a little bit busy for a Friday, a bit earlier on, but it's all eased off and looking pretty easy. Major delays leaving Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban this morning. Please don't underestimate this. It's a crash, a very serious one down at Ashburton. The backlog of traffic is past Market Road, past Alan Payton on-ramp, back past New England and back sort of towards Ortman Road. It's really extreme. A lot of trucks, a lot of vehicles in that backlog, so maybe just elect to come out of Pietermaritzburg a little bit later once the scene is cleared and the traffic backlogs got through. Otherwise, you could probably try and shoot down the Polly Shorts, although you can expect that route to be pretty heavily backed up as well. So major delays leaving Pietermaritzburg. A breakdown at Cliffdale in amongst the roadworks, very heavy getting up towards Pietermaritzburg. Queues from Shongweni, Cassia Road locally, taking a real hammering with diverting traffic seekers. And then Durban side, the N2 going north, a crash before Mgeta Road, very heavy from the M7 Bluff exit. You got queues coming into that Spaghetti Junction, traffic on the N3 from Pavilion and outbound from Sherwood, so it's all very slow. And Cape Town, a lot of pressure around the 35th Avenue run up towards the Francie Fund Sale this morning, to and from Parow, very slow going. And Bosmansdam Road, traffic lights out at the N7. Still causing backlogs out of Edgemead and the Boertasaki area. Rob Byrne, SF.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. We're building up to Banyana, who are ready for their match against Denmark today at 3 p.m. And we've got boxing. Anthony Joshua, according to his promoter Eddie Hearn, will face either Daniel Dubois or Tyson Fury next. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Friday. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. We are into the third hour of the show on this Friday. It's good to have you with us. We've lit quite a number of fuses and the conversation has exploded in multiple directions over the last 2 or so hours. Among the key conversations, what has really dominated, in fact, has been this conversation about the differences between parties in the Government of National Unity, the governing coalition of the country, around the issue of whether or not Russia is a friend and ally of South Africa. That's what the president said on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan in Russia a few days ago, to the immediate objection of the Democratic Alliance, which is one of the parties inside the Government of National Unity, and a war of words has ensued since then. A lot of you reacting, and I'll be taking your calls on that and other issues as well. But I do need to highlight this, and I've made the undertaking as well, that I will never normalize the death of so many people through the barrel of a gun in peacetime South Africa. So you'll forgive me. I will keep saying this. I will keep highlighting it each and every time it happens, because it's not normal for me. And as I've said, I do believe it's not normal for you. If it's not normal, we should always highlight it and say, this is not normal. As you heard in the news there, 6 people dead in Bishop Lavis in the latest mass shooting. Just 24 or no more than 48 hours after there was another mass shooting in Atlantis in the Western Cape. 11 people dead in mass shootings. This is not counting all the other people that die from gun violence elsewhere in the country on a daily basis. We're talking here mass shootings as defined as including multiple victims, perhaps 4 or more, thereabouts. There you have it, 11 in the last 2 days in the Western Cape. The body count is escalating daily. The body count is escalating. And these are not just numbers. These are people. These are lives snuffed out, people's hopes and dreams, families shattered, lots more people left traumatized. They are finishing us, I said. And I say it again. They are finishing us. The war is on. and you wonder, is our side fighting? So you can engage me on that and other issues as well. There's the issue around spaza shops and the regulation thereof, and the food poisoning incidents that we continue to see around the country, particularly involving children. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversation that moves us, and we are into the third hour of the morning brief, and it starts now.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing, anything can go wrong. The reason I chose OUTsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for best business insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business OUTsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Did you know? October marks the 19th anniversary of Transport Month, a vital initiative by the National and Provincial Departments of Transport. This year's campaign highlights the progress being made to build better infrastructure, create jobs, and boost an inclusive, sustainable economy, all while enhancing service delivery.
Doing more together, building better infrastructure, and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Toulouse have a concrete plan to triumph and maintain their top spot. Meanwhile, fourth position Toulon have set their minds on a win to pressurize the three teams above them. This is the top 14. Witness the incredible action, the top 14 rugby encounter between log leaders Toulouse and RC Toulon. This Sunday, 27 October at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also, available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM will be hosting its annual Breast Cancer Awareness Roundtable on The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana on Wednesday, the 30th of October 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center in Boksburg. For an opportunity to join the roundtable, email your name and surname to info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
At 8:15, let's go straight to your calls for this morning. Let's speak to Jonathan in Gqeberha. Jonathan, good morning. The DA's comments on Russia on your mind this morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, South Africa is a peaceful country, peaceful nation. And I think you should play the clip of Nelson Mandela when he was interviewed just after release in the States, where American journalists asked him, now that South Africa has been freed, what's your links with Cuba and I think Palestine at the time? And Mandela's response was, the West's problem should not be that the enemy of the West should necessarily mean that it's the enemy of South Africa. So I think you should just play that clip as a very short clip.
I remember that.
But yeah, that was a very powerful statement, and I don't know why the DA is carrying on and why the ANC is defending themselves. Just play that clip. We don't have enemies. I mean, so if it's the enemy of the West or NATO or whoever, it doesn't mean it's necessarily enemy of ours.
All right,
so
gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Jonathan in Gqeberha there, urging us to take lessons from the past on issues of foreign policy. AB is in Durban. Good morning to you, AB. You want to talk to me about the DA on Russia?
Yes, my friend. Now, the DA is very upset with President Ramaphosa for saying the words that Russia is a friend of South Africa. I would like John Steenhuisen to come out and say clearly and loudly, we, the DA, strongly condemn the genocide that Israel is conducting against the Palestinian people. Just those words, not about the two-state solution or calling for a ceasefire or Palestinians must be free and so on. Just say the word genocide. The DA spokesperson ducked and dived when you asked a very clear question. Would Steenhuisen meet and shake hands with Joe Biden, who is supplying billions of dollars worth of arms to Israel to kill Palestinian women and children? The hypocrisy of the DA is absolutely astounding. Everything that the so-called civilized West does is to be supported. There is no doubt a racist undertone hidden behind this attitude.
All right, let's leave it there. AB out in Durban with that reaction. In fact, on the same theme, let's take a call from Thabo in Tshwane. Good morning to you, Thabo. You want to talk about the response to the DA?
Yes, Thulasizwe, thanks for taking my call. The DA's arguments are not sustainable. I would have wanted to ask Mr. Okam, what if Mr. Ramaphosa had said Iran is our ally and friend? I think that the DA would have taken the same stance that they have taken. But when you think of the U.S., because he says the U.S. doesn't invade anyone, which we know is not true, they cause wars everywhere. But the U.S. are supporting Israel with arms to commit crimes which have been condemned even by the Security Council. And you would find that Iran, they will say Iran is supporting terrorists, but Israel is also a terrorist state. So why this double standard? So right. That argument is not sustainable at all.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for that, Thabo. Thabo out in Tshwane there. In fact, let me play one or two voice notes before I continue with your calls. Let's take one that also has to do with the relationships among the parties in the GNU.
Good morning, Thulas. This is Bike in Cape Town. You know what about DA not wanting to step out of the GNU? They know why. They truly know why. They actually, I think personally, they want to ride on the ticket that they were once. What is this now? Leading the ministerial positions and what and so forth. Now they want to lie to the illiterate and to the electorate later on when they are preparing for the elections, both for local and the national in the near future. So you know what? In my humble opinion, I just wish DA can just get out. Get out. Because ANC needs to get in bed with the MK, and then we have Umkhonto weSizwe and the African National Congress taking back our country, taking it forward, and perhaps EFF must join. This is Spike in Cape Town.
Sure, thank you for that. I wonder, though, if we are any closer to that reality that you paint there. I would submit that we're probably not that close. We're not close at all, because it would seem to me that keeping the EFF and MK out of government, the ANC may not have used those words, but the other parties, such as the DA, have used them. And it would seem to me that is something that the DA, despite their frustrations, they continue to hold as something that they must hold on to and ensure that the EFF and MK don't come anywhere near the government of national unity, despite the fact, of course, that they had been invited to join at some point.
Good morning.
No, I think we've just played that. Let me take another one.
Thulasizwe, my brother, how are you doing? It's a nice morning in Durban, Stan here. I like it when the DA is suffering like this, Thulasizwe, in this GNU. They deserve it. There are certain things I don't want to say about them, what they did in the past elections. So now that the ANC is showing them flames, I am enjoying it. Cheers, brother.
All right, Stan, saying that the ANC is showing the DA flames. Let me take a call from Crispin. Good morning to you, Crispin, in Durban. You also want to talk about Russia and Palestine.
Sure, Thulasizwe Mfowethu. I just want to say, look, the problem I think the DA has is that it actually has to confront the reality that's visible to most people in the world of just how violent, just how imperialist the United States' stance is in relation to the rest of the world. I mean, arming the genocide, funding the genocide, perpetuating the genocide is truly shocking, and we have to call it out as that, and not as, oh well, there should be a liberal solution. That's their problem. But at the same time, if you're going to be progressive and say we're opposed to imperialism, I mean, Putin has this deep fondness for the imperial Russian state of the past, the empire. And that is basically what drives it, has driven its invasion of Ukraine. So progressive people have to call out Russia as well. And just look, for example, at what Russia did in Chechnya. I mean, if that is not colonial brutality and violence on a scale not that different from Gaza, then people are not understanding things.
Sure,
Being
thank you for that.
progressive means you've got to be consistent.
All right, thank you for that, Crispin. I appreciate your call this morning, but also the different nuance that you bring to the conversation. I tell you what, I'll take a bit more of your calls and voice notes in just a moment.
Whatever your need for a personal loan, choose a bank that's best for your loans. Nedbank offers loans of up to 400,000 Rand at the best possible fixed interest rates. And there's more. Open a My Goals Plus or My Goals Premium account, and you could enjoy 200 Rand cash back every month for the duration of your loan term. That's up to 14,400 Rand cash back. Visit nedbank.co.za to apply for your tailored personal loan. See money differently. Nedbank. We are a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The citizens of Manchester are highly motivated to cruise with a convincing victory against Southampton.
It's brilliant from Grealish, and Guardiola's up there as well, and City lead.
Meanwhile, the Saints are pumped up to fight for the entire match duration away from home.
It's flicked on, and again the Saints have the effort, and this time he does score, and we're back in the game.
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting contest between reigning champions Manchester City FC and Southampton FC on Saturday 26 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Powerball is bringing the excitement with an estimated 20 million Rand jackpot. But that's not all. Powerball Plus is turning up the thrill with a guaranteed 65 million Rand jackpot this Friday. Play Powerball and Powerball Plus today for your chance at big millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Handa, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Hey there, need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat. Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
The conversation is lively. Let's keep it going. Let's take a few more of your voice notes.
From Cape Town. Once again, we are being dragged into a situation where we are being forced to choose a false dichotomy by the political parties which love to divide and conquer, and without any reference to the truth. As your last caller, I didn't catch his name, mentioned, the situation with Russia and Ukraine and the situation with the genocide in Palestine, we don't have to choose between them. We should be condemning them both. They're both driven by the war industry, and that's what we should be condemning. It's actually got nothing to do with politics at all.
Good morning, Thulas. Thank you for cutting that gentleman off there at the end. I couldn't listen to him anymore either, Mr. Oukamp from from the DA. This guy is so out of touch, and also he's very misinformed. He says America is not raiding any countries on the globe, but Russia is. I don't know. That's the best that the DA has. Then I think it's no surprise when it comes to their stance on Russia, Israel, Gaza, Ukraine. Thank you.
Hi, just a point. Your guest alluded to the fact that America has never invaded another country. America has invaded more countries than any other state in the last 50 years, going back from Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, their support for Israel. Furthermore, the DA has never condemned Israel publicly or privately.
All right, there you have it. Just some of the voice notes we have received on that issue, which seems to now really be dominating the conversation this morning, and I'm loving it. Let me speak to John in Joburg. Good morning to you, John. You also want to talk about the DA and the ANC.
Thulasizwe, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. Thulasizwe, the issues we're facing are very fundamental, and to be honest, we should not be surprised. I mean, in my view, it's black and white, right? The DA has inherited the National Party foreign policy and the ideological outlook onto the world and everything. It is not a surprise because 90% of the DA constituents, anyway, those are the people who used to vote and then, National Party. So DA can't be seen by those constituencies now to be siding with the likes of Russia, who obviously, again, are the historical friends of the liberal, the liberation movement in South Africa. So this is just a continuation of the National Party and the ANC. It's like we're back to the Cold War, we're back to apartheid. Let's not be surprised. These are going to be like this. I think it needs maturity for these guys if they want to stay the course to resolve these things. Right. But it's going to be like this. We know what National Party stands for. We know what the Liberation Movement stands for.
All right.
It's going to be like this.
Point well made. Thank you, John. That's John in Joburg there. Let me take Loyiso on the line from Randburg. Apologies there, Loyiso. I believe you've been holding for a while. You also want to talk about the DA?
Yeah, if you would allow me, Thulasizwe. I think the current scenario of the DA is like when you see fans in a rugby or soccer game shouting for the ref or the team, the coach to change. But when you put that fan to just try and kick one penalty kick, you realize how difficult it is to be on the field of play and execute what the professional players normally do. So, in the case of the DA, they are used to shouting on the sidelines, posturing as opposition. It's a different ball game to run government on government policy. And that's the part that I think they are missing the most. There's no new policy that has been set up by the GNU. What we currently having, including all the ministers that are in cabinet right now, are implementing policies that have already been established, including working on what sixth administration has determined going forward. So DA will try by all means to catch the headlines, but really it's difficult for them to manage government, and I think they are being exposed.
All right.
On the issue of spaza shops,
I'm out of time, Lois, so we're going to unfortunately have to pick that conversation up at a later stage. Let's go straight to Ann Musa at 8:30 for a news headlines update.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the death toll in the latest mass shooting in Cape Town has risen to 7 from 6 this morning. The SARS police deployments have been reinforced in Bishop Lavis on the Cape Flats following the fatal shooting incident last night. A head-on collision between a truck and a delivery vehicle has claimed 5 lives on the Skumanskloof Road in Mashadadorp and Mbombela in Mpumalanga last night. And the ANC says its Government of National Unity partner, the DA's objection to President Cyril Ramaphosa's comments on Russia being an ally to South Africa during his address at the BRICS summit is misplaced. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A crash on Joburg Gen3 North, getting up into Buccleuch interchange. A little bit. It's been cleared, but there's another obstruction there now. So delays from Limbro Park, from Marlborough Drive. Mike 1, fairly slow. Melrose going down into the Parktown area. And if you're on the run through from Pretoria into Joburg, looks okay. There are some traffic lights out. Solomon Mishlogi, Pretoria East still causing some delays. Now Durban having and KZN having a real nightmare Friday. Here's the big ones. A crash on the N2 north of Mgedi Road. Traffic very heavy back beyond the M7 and back towards Cement Factory. That is just one to stay well away from. If you're going from Durban out to Pietermaritzburg, a very lengthy queue up towards Cliffdale, a breakdown in the roadworks, one lane open, queues back to Shongweni, and the M13 from Cassia queuing heavy to get into that M3 for that slow run through to Cliffdale. And here's the big one. If you're leaving Pietermaritzburg or trying to leave Pietermaritzburg, very serious crash at Ashburton in the roadworks. Most of the lanes are obstructed, probably only one to get through, if even a full lane. Traffic's backed all the way, almost to Ortman Road, so just south of Chotamotala. You'll probably see the queue, and then you won't get out of it until you get past Ashton. That's a really extreme backlog. Polly Shorts, the R103 alternative rundown, Pietermaritzburg to Ashburton, fairly heavily backed up. I would think the advice is, if it's not absolutely essential, stay put in Pietermaritzburg until that scene's cleared and the traffic flow has normalised, but that's probably going to take some time. Cape Town today, N1 from N1 City through to the city centre, looking really busy, and traffic lights still a problem, as they have been for the last few days. Bosman's Dam at the N7, so big sort of traffic still with us coming out of Edgemead and Bortasak. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you once again. Banyana and Desiree Ellis are out in Denmark. It's a friendly tour, but I don't imagine that when they take to the field of play, there'll be anything friendly about it.
No, there's going to be some, the so-called beautiful game, and all the friendliness will leave once they're on the pitch. Battle it out.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? Today we have two Banyana teams playing. One at 6 p.m., which is the Banyana team that's out in Denmark. And then there's one at 3 p.m., which is the WAFCON qualifiers.
Wow.
Banyana taking Eswatini at 3 p.m. And good news is that SABC Sport will be showing
depth
both
of the squad, I tell you.
Yay! We've got, yes, that's right. The depth of the squad will be tested. And, of course, under the leadership of Coach Desiree Ellis. Banyana looking forward to taking on Denmark today. Aalborg is where it's all happening. It's a crucial match, this, as they also have the reigning European champions, England, next. Let's go to SuperSport United coach Gavin Hunt, pleased that the hierarchy has gone the extra mile in addressing their lack of depth by signing striker Abubakar Nasser. The 24-year-old is not expected to feature in his new club anytime soon, with striker Tashreeq Morris again set to be thrown in the deep end following his recent arrival. And let's find out more from United coach Gavin Hunt.
Morris came, out of nowhere, and obviously walking the street. And didn't have a job, didn't have a club, and knowing our situation, I said to him, listen, just, and he's been good for 2 games, not playing on one leg, so it's unfortunate, but you have to go again for us, and then hopefully we can get, some support around him and near him.
Elsewhere, Richarlison scored from the penalty spot, helping Tottenham maintain their perfect start in the Europa League. 1-0 was their victory over AZ Alkmaar. While the Fenerbahce boss, Jose Mourinho, was sent to the stands in the second half for something he said towards the officials after Fenerbahce were denied a penalty. His side held his former club, Man United, 1-1 last night, extending the English Giants' wait for a Europa League win. United have drawn all 3 of their European games this season, and a point does little to ease the pressure on the under-fire manager Erik ten Hag. In the meantime, João Felix scored twice. Chelsea, they went on to beat Panathinaikos 4-1. It was all Europa League action last night. And finally, boxing, Anthony Joshua will definitely face either Daniel Dubois or Tyson Fury next, says his heavyweight promoter Eddie Hearn. Joshua suffered a 4th career defeat when he was stopped by the IBF world champion Dubois at Wembley Stadium in September. Now, Fury who has long been linked with a super fight with Joshua, will face the unified champion Alexander Usyk on the 21st of December after losing to the Ukrainian in May. Now, Dubois dropped Joshua multiple times in front of a reported British crowd of 96,000 before the fight was halted in the 5th round. That's a wrap of your sport on the morning brief. We'll have more for you on SFM around 12:30 with John Hedeker. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again, Dowling. No wonder you've been splurging and spending money like it's going out of fashion. I see that average take-home pay has improved. Now it makes sense.
Now it makes sense, right? So
Yeah.
South Africa's average take-home pay has reached its highest level since 2012, surpassing the 17,000 mark for the first time. According to the Bank Serve Africa Take-Home Pay Index, the average salary increased to 17,171 in September, with real salaries adjusted for inflation rising 5.6% year on year to 14,969. Now, this growth driven by easing inflation, fuel price relief, and lower interest rates, which have boosted salary earners' spending potential ahead of the year-end shopping season. Now, independent economist Elise Kruger, who is a key member in compiling the data, says the suspension of load shedding for almost 7 months and government efforts to accelerate structural reforms have also played a role in the growth. Now, the real take-home pay has increased by 2.2% in the first 9 months of the year, with nominal salaries climbing 6.3%. Zooming in on the sectors that benefited the most, the transport and finance industries recorded increases of 7% and 6.6% respectively, while community and social services and manufacturing saw more modest increases of 2.3% and 3%.
And in company news in Dowling, you're telling us about Clicks. They're gaining market share, are they? And it's naturally having a positive impact on their earnings.
That's right. And before we get into the numbers, I wanted to ask you, do you have a Clicks loyalty card?
No, I don't have a loyalty card of any nature.
You know what? I remember you saying that too many cards just give you stress.
I don't want to be asked even when I'm shopping. Don't ask me about cards. I'm paying. Let's go. Let's keep it going.
Listen, well, you are missing out because I am a part of the 11.8 million club card members, sharing over 700 million in cashback rewards. Company CEO Bettina Engelbrecht said over the past year, it paid out 780 million rands in cashback rewards and gained 1 million new club card members. And that growth has also been translated in its annual numbers, with turnover rising 9% and earnings jumping 14.3%. Click says its defensive nature is really boding well as consumer spending hasn't totally recovered. The group says it's benefited from stronger market share gains in the retail, health and beauty categories. Clicks also benefited from a strong showing from its private label products and strengthened margins. Looking forward, in the short term, Clicks expects consumer spending to remain somewhat subdued, but it says over the medium term, the consumer environment looks more positive, attributing this to, of course, the low inflation we've seen come through, as well as further rate cut relief.
I'm still okay. No club card, no card of any nature for me. With about 20 minutes to go before the resumption of trade in the JSE, just give us a sense of the tone that has been set by Asia, but also how it's likely to play out on our shores as well as the US.
Now, while sentiment seems to have improved overnight, there are still some risks at play, and so the JSE could be in for a mixed start this morning. In terms of company news, investors will be waking up to Dis-Chem's half-year results. Now, in currency markets, the local unit looking likely to end the week in the negative, back at 17.70 against the dollar. In Wall Street, futures in the red despite a strong finish yesterday. Lastly, in Asia, those markets on track to end the week mixed as traders digest Japanese inflation figures ahead of the Bank of Japan's next monetary policy meeting taking place next week. Analysts eyeing that meeting, expecting the bank to hold rates steady come next Wednesday.
All right, have a great weekend in Ndauling. That's Ndauling Lichela. She's been updating you on all things to do with business, the economy, as well as the markets here at home and around the world throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief.
Botswana and Mauritius will be bumper to bumper on each other's heels, looking for maximum points during the 12 midday clash. While at 3 p.m., the Malawians aim for a win against Madagascar, who are also highly interested in 3 points. This is the doubleheader of the Hollywood vs Kasafa Women's Championship. Catch both clashes on Saturday, 26 October, live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Twiddly Twahla registered 4 draws in their opening 4 matches of the season. Now they strictly won 3 points. But Babinanuko wants a permanent home in the top 5. KZN takes on Limpopo. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Royal AM versus Sikukune United this Saturday, 26 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM will be hosting its annual Breast Cancer Awareness Roundtable on The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana on Wednesday, the 30th of October 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center in Boksburg. For an opportunity to join the roundtable, email your name and surname to info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
17 minutes to 9. Let's turn to the story now. At least 80% of foreign tourists have not returned to KwaZulu-Natal since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. At least that's according to the Federated Hospitality Association of South Africa, FEDASA, which revealed this, which made this statement at a joint media briefing with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, and that was in Durban on Tuesday. The association cites crime, infrastructure collapse, floods, and the July 2021 unrest as factors driving foreign tourists away. I'm joined now by Brett Tange, who is the Federated Hospitality Association of South Africa's East Coast chairperson. Brett, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. So give me a sense of your understanding of international tourists' arrivals in KwaZulu-Natal. You're saying it has not improved since the COVID pandemic.
Yes, so we've got a mixed bag in the province. So if we look at the domestic tourism market, it's back strong, and we have to thank the South African travelling market for the support that we're getting in KZN, because without them, we wouldn't be around anymore. In terms of the foreign market, yeah, it's a mixed bag. Yeah, there is the high-end market foreign market seems to be back in the province here, in the Northern Natal Game Reserve. They're doing exceptionally well in general. But majority of the province, so if we look at the South Coast, Durban, Midlands, Drakensberg, foreign numbers are, depending on which businesses you talk to, anywhere between 70 and 90% down on pre-COVID numbers, which is huge. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to say, what measure are we using to arrive at the conclusion that between 70 and 80% of foreign tourists have not returned since the COVID pandemic?
Okay, so in terms of actual statistics, the only statistics we have for foreign arrivals is what comes through the international airports. So nationally, we're sitting at about 18% down on the pre-COVID foreign arrivals into South Africa. So for us as an association, we have to then go to our members, and we ask all our members around, like in KZN, what is their experience, the lived experience on the ground. And that is basically the general trend that we're getting from the majority of our members in KZN, is that if you're not in the 5+ star market, you're not seeing any substantial tourism numbers. Yes, there are some outliers, of course, as there is in anything when you're surveying. But in general, the trend is unfortunately very negative. So the question then comes on to what must we do as a province? Because if you look ostensibly, if we go back from 2019 to 2024, what has actually changed? We've still got the same tourism product, if not actually better, because people have had to be more competitive to survive. There's not much difference. The only difference is perception. And we as a province need to try and harness all available resources to try and change that perception, not only on the domestic side, but the media. The media is one of the biggest stumbling blocks we have as a province. At the moment, it's very easy to put out negative projections. Yeah, we had a little bit of rain the other day. There was a little bit of damage, and the headline out was that there was huge flood damage, but there wasn't any impact onto tourism. So we need to harness the entire ecosystem of messaging to change the perception of KZN. If we can get that right, we can then. KZN used to be a primary tourism destination, just like Cape Town and Kruger, where people will actually book a foreign tour to Cape Town or to Kruger. What's happened in the last decade is that KZN has slowly slipped, and we are now an add-on, unfortunately. So somebody will go to Cape Town or Kruger, and they got an extra few days, they'll add on KZN, which isn't good enough anymore. It's not. We need to change that model. We need to become a prime tourism destination again, because we've got it all. KZN is South Africa's hidden gem in terms of tourism. We've got everything. We've got amazing beaches. We've got amazing mountains. We've got the Midlands with the battlefields. We've got the culture. It's a melting pot of perfect tourism destinations. You can't get better. But the perception has gone out the window, unfortunately.
Yeah. Would developments such as, the vote of confidence from the French-owned Club Med construction, the construction of the first resort in South Africa that has begun on the north coast in KwaZulu-Natal and scheduled to open in July 2026, would that start moving us in the right direction of this conversation?
Oh, most definitely. We need to get that ball rolling again. What's happened is that COVID totally destroyed the psychological travel trends of the world. Certain countries will go through fads. South Africa used to have a fad of going to Phuket, and then it was Zanzibar, and then Mauritius. But those travel trends were totally destroyed by COVID. And unfortunately, with the rebirth of travel, KZN unfortunately got left behind. Mostly to our own fault due to, with the riots, and then we had the issues with the sanitation on the beaches and then the subsequent floods. So we need to, as a province, rebrand ourselves and re-put ourselves out there and try and get that tourism flowing again. And once the people are here, they'll see the amazing tourism product we've got. And then we'll see numbers starting again.
All right, I've got to leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Brett Tange, who is the Federated Hospitality Association of South Africa's East Coast chairperson.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
KZN to and from Durban, still very heavily backed up. The big one, the crash at Ashburton this morning. In amongst the roadworks, very limited lane capacity. Traffic is extreme. It's all the way back past New England and marching back towards Ortman Road. So if you're coming past Liberty Mall, Chotamatala, you'll probably see the queue and you won't get out of that backlog, the enormous backlog, until you got through Ashburton. The side road, the R103 that takes you down through Polly Shorts, is doable, but obviously jammed with the additional diversion route seekers. So very heavy. The option really would be to, if it's not essential, to travel later once that serious crash is being cleared and the traffic's got through. Now, if you're heading out of Durban towards Pietermaritzburg, there's also a major delay. It's a stationary truck in the roadworks at Cliffdale. That's a queue on the N3 that extends back to Shongweni. It's a queue on the M13 from Cassia Road, leaving Hillcrest, trying to get up to the N3 Key Ridge. And between that, you've got a major backlog on Cassia Road. Motorists trying to get out of the N3 and instead just jamming Cassia and then just running into that problem on the M13. The other nightmare scenario is the N2 going north with a crash before Umgena Road, and that's causing a massive backlog back towards the M7 Bluff exit. Very extreme delays there. If you're heading up to the airport, side roads, alternative routes, not too bad. You want to get on those and avoid the N2. And then just a note, if you're around the Umgababa area on the N2, there is a bit of looting going on at a truck that's seemed to become stationary. Motorists pulling over, just helping themselves to the load on that truck, so be careful for pedestrian traffic there. Cape Town, the N1 inbound, still fairly slow going through towards the city centre. The queue only really from about Kuba get a change, so it is busy, but it's easier because it's Friday. And just a note, if you're travelling out of Cape Town through towards Plettenberg Bay, there's roadworks all over the N2 these days. Stop-go controls at Botrafia, and then more stop-go controls on your way to Caledon. More roadworks both sides of Chouritz, Albertinia to Chouritz, Chouritz to Mossel Bay. Works between George and Wilderness, and then more works in between Knysna and Plet. So there's just multiple stop-go controls and multiple delays along that section of the N2. It's summer, it's roadwork time, and they're taking full advantage on that N2 routing. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye."
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
The citizens of Manchester are highly motivated to cruise with a convincing victory against Southampton.
It's brilliant from Grealish, and Guardiola's up there as well, and City lead.
Meanwhile, the Saints are pumped up to fight for the entire match duration away from home.
It's flicked on, and again the Saints have the effort, and this time he does score, and we're back in the game.
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting contest between reigning champions Manchester City FC and Southampton FC on Saturday 26 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SV Werder Bremen have already calculated that victory will keep them in the top half, while fourth-place reigning champions Bayer Leverkusen are searching for the special key to open the door heading to the summit. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting encounter between SV Werder Bremen and Bayer Leverkusen this Saturday, 26 October at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Did you know the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa is reopening passenger rail lines that were severely affected by infrastructure damage and cable theft? 31 out of 40 priority lines are now fully operational. 266 stations are fully functional in cities across the country. The Gibela Train Factory has manufactured 246 trains, and half of these are already being utilized by PRASA, which has completed 35 million passenger trips across different regions to date. Doing more together, building better infrastructure and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take your calls just before the end of the show then. Let's hear from you. Let's take a call from Paul in Stellenbosch. Good morning to you, Paul. You want to give a response to my conversation with Professor Duvenache?
Yeah, I did, but just as an aside, it's very incredible positive news about the rail transport situation in the country.
Yeah.
Never knew that. He said two things that I think are highly debatable. The one is that Russia is a dictatorship, and the other thing is that Russia is a colonizer, and that Ukraine is just the start of that process, was the implication. And, I think SAFM needs to cast its net wider in order to get a debate going amongst the public about these very important geopolitical partners, and there's a whole coterie of specialists, but I can mention two of them. One is a Dr. Gilbert Doctorow, who will tell you the opposite of the claim that Russia is a dictatorship. It has regular elections. The Russia United Party of Putin, I think, has 40%. It has a large Communist Party representation in the Duma. But someone like that could actually come on your show and educate Professor Duvenach and the rest of us more. And then there's an ex-CIA intelligence officer who's internationally known. You just got to Google these names. Ray McGovern, who will give you a lesson in 101 about Russia and its military operation.
I take the point you're making, Paul, about needing to widen the conversation and exposing more perspectives on some of these issues. That's Paul in Stellenbosch there. Let's take a call from Bond in Gqeberha. Good morning to you, Bond, also on the issue of Russia.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the SAFM family. Very briefly, this debate is not supposed even to be existing. I'll tell you why. Yesterday we celebrated the UN Day, the commemoration of the formation of the United Nations. One of the four purposes of the United Nations is to develop friendly relations amongst nations, all 200 of them. The question of foreign policy goes to the depth or warmth of the relationship. So South Africa has got to have a relationship with each and every state. It's there in the United Nations, in the Charter, to ensure that we don't go back to a third world war. We don't go to a third world war. Firstly, having said that, the statement is incomplete as it is. It says that Russia is a valued ally and friend of South Africa from the days of struggle, when friends were few. That is the complete statement, not that one. So any country worth its salt that has got a foreign policy embracing countries that were pro-transformation from Cape to Cairo has to have a foreign policy towards that. There is no UN resolution that says because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russia has to be isolated. There's no resolution like that. South Africa is a sovereign state. It has to have relations with everyone.
All right.
But having said that, lastly, on the statement of intent, the statement of intent said that if there's after the formation, there has to be a lekgotla on an agreed policy. There is no new policy on foreign policy, so the law prevails. Any old law policy prevails until it is changed.
All right, Bond, let's leave it there. Thank you for your perspective this morning. That's Bond there weighing in on those issues. Let me take one or two voice notes. Let's see how many we can squeeze in.
Peter from Durban. I'm just going to pose a very simple question regarding who South Africa is fraternizing with today in the world. If you ran your radio station between 6 and 9 each weekday morning at a radio station in Beijing or Moscow, how long do you think this show would last? I give it 30 days max and you'd be behind bars. Plain and simple. And I'm simply going to leave it at that so that people can think for themselves the nature of our friends today. Thanks.
Good morning. I have a question. Okay, so if the West is so bad, how is it that there are so many migrants and refugees flooding these cities from the pro-Palestinian states and all that? If the West is so bad. Can somebody please answer that the West is flooded with refugees running away from their countries? Please, I need an answer.
Yeah, questions being posed. The answers are few, but the perspectives are many, which we appreciate on these issues of geopolitics and South Africa's role therein, who South Africa chooses to be friends with, and how we refine our own foreign policy. What's becoming clear is that there needs to be a refining of our own foreign policy in the context of the government of national unity. And you do expect and you do get the sense that that friction will continue for some time within the government of national unity. And that's how we come to the end of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening, and thanks to the team that put it all together. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43186.